Hi, friends. Welcome to our Mexico episode.
We got a mucho grande one for you today, so get ready to dig in.
Yeah, if you take a look at the timestamp, it's a little daunting, but don't panic. We were actually going to split this up into 2 episodes, but we decided we'll let you hit the pause button when you need to take a break.
So grab a taco when you need to. Get ready for all things CDMX and Cabo, as told to us by our own experiences, as well as a lot of insider information from the tour guides we hired while we were there.
We start the journey in Cabo San Lucas and then head over to Mexico City. So come travel with us. Enjoy.
Arriba!
Check the mic and make sure it sound right, boys.
Hey listeners, ever wonder what it would be like to sell everything and travel the country at the tender age of 50? Well, with our last kid off to college and the ability to now work remotely, we've decided to do just that. So we're selling the house, loading up the dog, and hitting every city from California to Florida. We're scouring the country for a new place to call home and dragging you into every restaurant, Airbnb, and tourist trap we encounter along the way. This is the Skip Town All-Stars podcast.
What's up, All-Stars? Welcome to another exciting episode of Skip Town All-Stars. Hello to all you guajolotes out there.
That was a good intro.
Do you know what that means?
A guajolote is...
It's a turkey. That's my Mexican callback to Thanksgiving.
I was literally thinking about everything Mexico, and I was like, what is a guajolote?
Hope your Thanksgiving was great. How was yours?
It was good, but, we didn't have the girls with us, and that was hard. I think it was hard on us, and it was hard on us, and it was hard on the girls, minus Parker, because she was just fine.
Parker's always cool with being out on her own.
But we knew that we were not going to see them this Thanksgiving. It was already discussed many times, but I think the reality set in Thanksgiving morning when all of us were in different parts of the country. So, we decided that next year we're not going to do that. So either they're going to come to us or we're going to go to them. But most likely we'll go to them because as college kids, they only get off Wednesday and Friday. And when they're, sitting in an airport waiting for a plane and they're getting delayed, it kind of doesn't make any sense for them to come to us. So we'll just go to them.
Yeah. It was funny though, because for as much as they hate Thanksgiving food and the whole idea of Thanksgiving, they always hated when we would drive to Lake Havasu because it was the winter and they couldn't go on the lake and they couldn't do the boating and the inner tubing and all that stuff.
And they always wanted to do Black Friday in LA.
Yeah.
So they complained about that. And then they started complaining that they didn't like turkey. But I think they would have taken a Lake Havasu drive
in the winter.
Yeah. In the winter over being apart this year.
Yeah, I agree. As learned by the phone calls that were coming in.
Calls with an S.
when the shit hit the fan.
Yeah.
On Thanksgiving morning. I'm glad you were around to field those. For me, it was a little weird being out of LA. There have been a lot of twists and turns for us as a family this year. It did hit me a little bit, just, specifically because we weren't able to, we're obviously not celebrating with our old friends and extended family and all that, but we are pivoting to a new life. And you and I, frankly, had a pretty good time.
We did have a good Thanksgiving. I mean, I miss them and you miss them, but we enjoyed our Thanksgiving. We were with my brother and sister-in-law, and that was really nice. We were with their friends, and their friend Bonnie cooked the most amazing turkey dinner. And we had tons of desserts, and we all left really full and quite tired.
Yeah. Everybody went home and took a nap. All those plans for hanging out and doing board games
didn't happen.
No.
I know. I said to my brother, let's play board games tonight. And he was like, okay. And then as we got in the car to leave Bonnie's, I said, yeah, I can't, I got to go home. And he's like, yeah, I'm going home too. Just you stay put.
Yeah. So it was a great time. And for us, it was the perfect time coming back to Florida. Still having to get the house ready for the renters and all that business.
Yeah, we have a few more weeks before we head out to Los Angeles. So we're just getting everything together because they show up January 1st.
Yeah. And it just seems right now that Mexico is a magical memory.
I know, it was only a week ago.
I know. So it's good that we're doing this episode now. I'm excited to talk about all things Mexico City, but first we're going to get into Cabo. Yeah.
Yeah, let's get right into it right now with Cabo San Lucas.
Go ahead.
All right. So we went to Cabo San Lucas to celebrate our friend's 10-year wedding anniversary.
Whoop, whoop.
Yep. We
Hooray
were there.
for love. Go
Hooray for love. We were there 10 years ago when they tied the knot. So it was just fitting that we celebrate their 10-year anniversary. We've been to Cabo now. This is our, I think, third or fourth. It might be third or fourth. I can't remember. And we end up going to the same resort because we have a timeshare.
Yes, we are those people.
Yeah, as dated as that sounds, actually people still do it. And the whole purpose of us doing it 10 years ago was because
we got
James,
suckered.
No, that's not why. Because James is a workaholic and he would never have taken any time off to do a vacation. So this literally, by having a timeshare and having a certain amount of time per year that you're paying, whether you go or not, basically would force James to take a vacation. So, and it worked because every year we would use the timeshare, but we mostly used it in Playa del Carmen. I wouldn't say, like almost every, I think we have been to Mexico, maybe not 10 times, but I'd say half the time we've been to Mexico. So maybe 5 or 6 times we've used a timeshare. So it came in quite handy. So all of that to say, we go back to the timeshare every year, which is perfect because it's next to our friend's resort that was celebrating her 10 years. So we're right next door. We can walk over there. They can walk over to us. It's pretty perfect. So Cabo San Lucas, let's talk a little bit about that. Cabo San Lucas, and this is just our opinion, we've been there, like I said, 3 or 4 times now, is really for us, I feel, a party town. I like to equate it to Daytona Beach in Mexico. Let's just start with right when you get off the plane. So the moment you get off the plane, you're inundated with several, like maybe 50 cabbies yelling, "Do you need a cab? Do you need a cab?" It's kind of cool though, because when you walk out of the airport, there's a bar right there. So it's like,
there is. That
let's
was
get
not
started.
there 10 years ago when we were there, right?
There was a little bar, I guess.
Okay.
And so they expanded to this big bar now. And it's like, let's get the party started. So I think that's really funny. I mean, I was like, wow, it's kind of perfect to have a bar right outside the airport. And it's outside, literally, like outside.
It's a little tiki / pavilion bar, cantina right there where everybody's waiting in the lanes for their cabs.
Yeah. It's fine to take a cab from the airport. I think we took a cab the very first time that we landed in Cabo 10 years ago. Look, they'll jack it up. They'll double the price. But it's pretty safe. I mean, I don't know, like we ended up okay 10 years ago. If your resort though has transportation, I always say go with the resort. They're hired by the resort. Chances are they're going to get you back in just plenty of time and you won't get robbed. But I think those stories of getting robbed are really quite old. Like, unless you're going to a really bad part of any country or any city, your chances of like having harm done to you right out of the airport, heading over to your resort, you don't hear about that anymore. That used to be the thing at with Mexico. You always hear, "Oh, be careful of the cabbies. They'll take you to a desolate area. They'll rob you, blah, blah, blah." No, like they just want to make their $70 on the cab ride, truthfully. Like, and if that happens and Americans are, robbed left and right, nobody's going to go back. So they're very careful about how they treat the tourists because guess what? They're making a ton of money, everyone. So be nice to the tourists.
Yeah. And the one thing we noticed, and we'll talk about this a little more when we get to Mexico City, but the people who are actually doing the cabs, the tourist industry, make a lot more money doing that than they would make at an office job. A lot of times those people are really underpaid and they just find they can make more money in tips. It's no secret that Americans can't quickly add up the difference between pesos and dollars. It takes a second. So, if you just hand somebody $5, chances are they're going to be really grateful. So
it's true.
Going back to the safety issue. Yeah. A lot of times they just want to jet you over, get their tip and get on to the next run.
Yeah. So, with regards to Cabo San Lucas, it's about an hour from the airport. The drive, There's a couple different ways to get there, generally the freeway, and there's not a whole lot to look at. But, look, you're headed to a nice resort, so you'll take that 60-minute drive.
Yeah.
Resorts differ all over Cabo, but again, my feeling, because Cabo and the downtown area is such a party town, that you really have to pick your resort wisely.
Yeah.
First thing is that, you can, like our resort where we stayed, which is called the Finisterra. That wasn't look, 10 years ago when we bought the timeshare, it seemed like perfect for what we needed in our family. And their location in Playa del Carmen really fits our family well. But I have to say, Cabo San Lucas is not our jive, not with this resort. It is just party central from day to night. And look, we like to get a drink on too, but they're just not our people. And that's just how it is. Look, if you want to go and get hammered from the moment you wake up to the time you go to bed and eat like average food, then this is the place for you. But if you want a little bit more of an elevated experience, this is not the place for you. And that is the case with a lot of resorts in Cabo. So for instance, right next to our resort, literally within walking distance, was the Waldorf Astoria Pedregal. And if you're familiar at all with like higher end resorts, just here in Waldorf Astoria, oh my gosh. So those rooms literally we walked on the beach to that resort. They start at $1,500 a night and go to $6,000. So the experience you're going to get at the Pedregal is definitely not the experience you're going to get at the Finisterra.
At Sandoz Finisterra. The other thing we should mention is when you talk about pick your resort wisely, the one thing you have to remember about Cabo San Lucas is it's on the very tip of the Baja del Sur, I believe, peninsula. At any rate, it is so far south on that one little strip of Mexico on the far western side. It's at the very bottom. And if you choose a resort in Cabo and you want to walk out to the beach every morning and just jump in and cool off, guess what?
You cannot.
You're going to have to be very careful about the resort you pick. Our resort, for example, if we were to walk into the sand,
we'd be dead.
Past the Pedregal, what's it called?
Yeah.
It's basically open sea. I mean, there are signs everywhere saying do not get in the water. It's a channel. It literally will wash you out to the ocean. So, and I'm sure it's happened. We talk about it. It's a little bit of dark humor on our part, I guess, that we discuess this every time we're walking down the beach.
We walk down the beach and we go, what drunk people?
How many people do you think this weekend?
Yeah. And they're not going to put on the news.
No.
So that's a very good point. There are only certain areas of Cabo, and I only know of two, where the beach is swimmable. So it's kind of a bummer. I mean, you go to this resort and you can look at the ocean, you can walk on the sand, and you can walk along the ocean, but you cannot swim in it. You have to get in a cab and drive to just the two designated beaches in Cabo San Lucas. So with that being said, if you wanted to get a resort near Medrano Beach.
Medrano. I think it's Medrano.
I always say it wrong. So it's like, I know the name of it, but I continually say it wrong.
I think it's Medrano Beach.
I think you're right. I put an R in there. If you want to get a resort near there, that is fine. But then just know that is where everyone, every single person that's in Cabo go to the beach. And that is not a family-friendly beach.
Not only that, when Denise is talking about Daytona with a Mexican flag, all up and down that particular beach, you have all your people harassing you for the sale of trinkets, cheap sunglasses, dishes. We're suckers. We bought all that stuff, but
and cruise ships
and all of the wet t-shirt contest type bars.
Yeah.
So if you're thinking you're taking little Timmy out there to just kick around in the ocean a little bit, think again.
It's not the place.
You got to be careful about where you're booking. You got to make sure your own resort, if you're booking in that area, has its own section of beach so that you're not going to see dirty dancing or whatever.
No, it's true. I mean, look, I was there and I thought to myself, I really don't want to bring my girls here. Like, I was embarrassed by some of the things I saw. And I was like, why would I want a vacation in this place with my three daughters? Like, it's not me. Hey, I'm just saying me. Like, I'm not everyone and everyone is not me.
Yeah, I mean, 10 years ago, it didn't even phase us.
I don't think it was this bad 10 years ago.
Maybe, yeah, I don't know. You could be right. Yeah, it's just corny. It's super cheesy at this phase in our lives. It's like we're empty nesters. We worked our asses off to get to this, and I'm like, oh my god, it's like 1993 in Panama City Beach all over again. So
So I would say, if you're going to do Cabo with the family, really make sure it's a family friendly resort. Make sure the beach you're going to is, family friendly. Also, make sure there is a beach. Otherwise, go with your friends or your girlfriends and party hard.
Yeah.
But, also just heads up, they do ask you if you want drugs everywhere you go.
Yeah.
I can't, how many times did you have to tell them you were already on cocaine?
People obviously think that I'm on coke. So I just started telling them that. I was just like, no, I'm good. I'm already like blowing up right now. So,
it didn't matter where we walked. It didn't matter. We were dressed nice going to dinner. And what would they say to you? Because
they'd
they
be
would
like, hey, man,
first
you want
ask
cigars?
you,
Hey, do you want cigars? How about a boat ride? Hey, you want to go deep sea fishing? How about coke? How about coke? And then they tip their nose. And I'm like, oh my God, man, we fell off a ledge really quick.
We went from deep sea fishing to cocaine, really quick. I was like, and then he just started saying, I'm good. I'm already whatever you were saying. I was just laughing because I was like, oh my God.
It's a fast barrage of marketing.
Yeah.
For sure.
So if you want to take your 2 little kids with you and be inundated with people asking if you want cocaine, Cabo's the place for you.
Cabo is a place for you. Now, I mean, I think it's good actually. If you were going there for the first time, just say people in our bracket, empty nesters or people with kids in high school, and just, a few couples that that wanted to just go blow off some steam or whatever.
It's an adult town.
It is definitely an adult town. You can do a lot of shopping there. You can buy a lot of silver, a lot of jewelry. The ladies like to do all that. You can get a massage, a couple's massage in some sketchy joint if you want, which we've done before.
We did.
And the whole time I was sipping on Coronas as a girl was rubbing me, I'd look over at Denise and say, I'm pretty sure we're losing a kidney right now.
He actually laid on his wallet. He put it on his stomach.
I was like, there's no way I'm leaving my wallet in that locker.
But it was funny because our girlfriend, Carly, and her husband, Mike, she was looking for massages. And that was her whole thing. She's like, we're going to get cheap massages. And she kept saying, but they're going to be amazing. They weren't amazing, but they were cheap.
And it was a time. We had the time of our lives.
It was really funny.
We could hear them laughing in the other room. We were all talking back and
first of
forth.
all, there were no doors. It was all partitioned walls with the walls didn't even meet the ceiling. So we could hear them laughing. We were laughing and I would yell out, hey, are you still alive?
My God, those 2 are so much fun.
They are. So, and then, we got lucky because the very first time we went to Cabo San Lucas, not the first time because we had a cabbie, but the second time my girlfriend, who had been to Cabo many times, had said to me, hey, you know what, you should have this guy I know who owns a transportation company pick you up from the airport. Well, my girlfriend is super, super wealthy. So I was like, okay, I'm not paying $400 for your guy to pick me up from the airport. And she's like, no. She's like, he's not going to charge you that. She's like, I'll call him. Okay. Her guy is now our guy.
That's right. Alejandro.
Alejandro.
I hope you're listening, mi hermano.
We love Alex. So what ended up happening is the second visit we were in Cabo, we hired him to pick us up from the airport. And he's great because he does transportation for a living, but for celebrities. So I love to pick his brain about who's in town, who he drove, what he did, because he doesn't just drive them. He will also work for them in their group. And, he's basically a bodyguard as well. So he makes it look like he's part of the group when in fact he's probably packing.
Yeah,
we were having this
totally.
whole discussion about it. Is he packing? Is he not packing?
He says he doesn't, but I mean, come on, you can't be a bodyguard in Mexico without having some sort of peace, right?
Yeah, I look, it makes the story so much better. So I'm sticking with it. He has a gun.
Yeah. Every time he brings us to the beach, he's got a gun. So awesome.
So the past couple of times we've been there, we've always talked about going to this small town outside of Cabo called Todos Santos.
Mm-hmm.
It's if you look up the description of it, they say it's a small fishing village. I've always wanted to go. Hotel California is there. Everyone thinks that the Eagles wrote the song about the hotel, which they didn't, but people still flock there because of Hotel California. But that aside, it is supposed to be a super cute town. So every time we've been there, we always say to Alex, we're going to have you take us on a day trip to Todos Santos. Well, this time we actually didn't. We did
Yeah.
it with the whole group of people. So there were 10 of us.
Yeah, it was awesome. It was a decidedly different vibe than Cabo.
Oh, completely.
Is it a fishing town?
That's what they say, but
It doesn't seem like a fishing town.
it doesn't.
It seems like a little more of a tourist resort town, but
Yes. Low key, understated,
yeah, more
but high
mellow,
end.
a little more upscale than Cabo.
They had art galleries. You
Yeah.
don't find that in Cabo.
Yeah, and their streets weren't totally dirty like they are in Cabo. So
Yeah. So it was really cool.
yeah, the one of the first places we stopped was a jewelry store.
Oh, that was one
and,
of the best
you know,
jewelry stores I've ever been in. Like, meaning silver jewelry in Mexico.
Yeah.
It was beautiful. Like, but we're talking like the pieces were like $2,000. So we're
Yeah.
not getting $50 bracelets here.
No, I forget the name of it actually, which is, my bad, people, mea culpa. But I picked out a braided silver bracelet, and I was like, a men's bracelet, and I was like, oh, this thing looks pretty damn cool. And of course, it was like the most expensive thing in the case. It was like $1,800. I was like,
Yeah, it was beautiful.
yeah, I'm not going to pick this up today. But
So that's like the vibe in Todos Santos. It's chill. It's you walk around. It's not inundated with people. No one asked James there if he wanted cocaine.
no, I was a little disappointed, frankly. Yeah.
So we spent a few hours there. We walked around. We actually stumbled upon an oyster restaurant because we were looking for art galleries, and I was like, hey, let's go down this one street. It looks like there's something down there. And
Yeah.
oh my gosh, it ended up being this beautiful plaza. It wasn't a plaza, though. It was a building. And in the middle of it, you walk in and it's a huge building. And in the middle of the building is an oyster bar, but
Yeah.
like the most beautiful upscale oyster bar you've ever seen, like gorgeous. And then all around the oyster bar were these little shops, like, we're talking like boutiques with like $400 dresses and art gallery and jewelry shop and a home goods shop. And it was all like super expensive. And I just looked at everything. I was like, oh, this is
Yeah.
so pretty.
It also has like some sort of indoor terrarium. So you're getting all this
Yes.
like green life and I don't know, plants and
Yeah, the roof was glass.
yeah.
I think.
And so it was done up pretty nicely. Like right away, we're like, oh, this is not your typical cantina. So
Well, it wasn't because it was an oyster bar.
yeah, it was an osteria, as
Uh-huh.
they say.
And I always thought osteria was Italian.
I think it is an Italian word, but maybe it just means seafood or oysters.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Sounds good.
So naturally, because everything looks so great, we decided to order oysters and
And
a
I don't
few
even
drinks.
have oysters. I can't remember the last time I've had an oyster. I'm just not. It's not appealing to me. But there, it was appealing. The drinks looked amazing. Just it was so cool.
Yeah, it was the prices were reasonable, but the place looked super upscale. So that made me feel really good about it. Sometimes when you're ordering oysters, I think, for those of us who enjoy them, you check out a place. It's really weird with seafood, but raw seafood in general. They can have the wood planks and smell like beer and all that other stuff. And you can get really amazing oysters there, depending on where you are. If you're in Maine or you're on the East Coast or Boston, somewhere like that. But in this particular case, I love the fact that everything was super polished and clean. And I was like, okay, this is a pretty good establishment. So when they started cracking them for us, I was happy.
Do you remember the guy that came around?
Yeah.
It was so cool. He was an oyster sampler. If I don't even know what that is, but he had like it looked like a fanny pack, but it was really big and he had oysters in it. And he came up to us and was like, okay, these are two different types of oysters. One is from this ocean, one is from here. And, he prepared it right in front of us without a table or anything. He cracked it open, put some sort of sauce on it. And he was like, here, try it. And this was before we even ordered. Like, I think we had already ordered our oysters. I don't even remember, but I was like, wait, an oyster sampler? Like, I'd never seen that. And it was cool.
There was actually a name for him. I forget what it is.
Yes.
I guess I'm too lowbrow to remember stuff like that. But he was shucking them right there on the spot for us.
Yeah.
And cracked a few, told us what sauces pair well with each individual species of oyster he was dishing out to us. And we followed his instructions, and they were pretty damn good, I must say.
They were. And so what ended up happening is that because Alex, our transportation person, who really is a registered tour guide in Mexico, he drove us there. So he got lost for a few hours, and then we called him, and he took us then to this beach called Cerritos Beach.
Yeah.
Now on the way to Todos Santos, Alex, being the tour guide that he is, gave us all kinds of information about Todos Santos, about Mexico. He is just chock full of information, but did it in a very conversational way, not in a way where you felt like you were on a tour. He also, like, if you're driving down the road and you see an abandoned building or you see a palace, you could literally ask him, what is that? And he would know. It was the beauty of having somebody from the area traveling with you. We loved it.
And it was a lot better than being stuck on a bus for 4 hours and just one person in a monotone voice reciting the same speech they've given in front of the same locations 100,000 times. So
yeah, it was literally like having a local friend with you, because I asked him, and so did James, several questions about Mexico politics, several questions about the cartel. I mean, we asked a lot of things, and he would say, okay, who wants to talk about this? And everyone in the group wanted to hear it. So it was really great. It was so great. He took us to this beach called Cerritos Beach. It's kind of known as like a surfer beach, and sure enough, there were lots of surfers there, but it was like something out of really like a movie. Like we drove down this sandy road, and it ended at an open beach, and it was so beautiful. And there was this like little restaurant in the corner, and that was it.
Yeah.
There
was one restaurant on the beach and a lot of space between that restaurant and the actual shoreline.
Mm-hmm.
So, it was pretty picturesque, and obviously it was not down on the tip of Mexico because we were able to swim and go in the ocean if we wanted to. There were plenty of people in the water. It was
but
gorgeous.
There weren't that many people there. There was like
a
handful of people. So Alex, said, okay, I'm going to be in the car. This is what you want to do. Hang out here for as long as you want. And we did. And then let's talk about that little doggy that did us in.
Oh my gosh, your friend. So we're on the beach hanging out. We did our walks. Our whole group is kind of chilling, or some of them went back to that restaurant to go get a beer or a margarita or what have you. And Denise is totally fixated on this dog.
It wasn't just me. It was Carly too. So, okay. It's no lie that when you're in Mexico, you see dogs everywhere. I mean, you've heard about it. You see it. It happens. There are stray dogs everywhere.
Because they don't believe in spaying or neutering.
They don't.
It's not a thing.
No, it's not.
Yeah.
So we're at this beach, and there is a dog laying on the sand. Literally, it looked like it wasn't breathing. So Carly is like, oh my gosh, this dog is dead. And I sort of see the chest coming up and down, but really faint, right? So we don't know how long the dog has been in the hot sun without water or food. So I immediately say, okay, I'm going to go to the restaurant and get some water for the dog, right? Because there's dogs running around the entire beach, but there are actually restaurant dogs, and those are really healthy, and they're fat, and they're happy, and they're strays, but the restaurant constantly feeds them. Like, they get the scraps. This dog was not that dog.
They're giving beans and rice and lard.
This dog was skin and bones, laying on the beach. It literally looked like it wasn't breathing. So I come back, and one of the other girls we're with said, oh, I'm so glad you brought this water, because Carly's just so upset. Like, she wants to leave because she can't handle, like, somebody needs to like take care of this dog. And I'm like, yeah. I go and I just ordered a burger patty for the dog because I had to make sure that the dog was fed. Well, we get to the dog and find out, like, I put the water there. The dog sort of lifts his head, and I'm like, oh my gosh, the dog is going to die. Like, the dog has no energy to even drink the water, because it just like pathetically lifted its head, looked at the water, then put its head back down. And then we find out there's a lady on the beach, like, making like drinks and stuff, like like not frozen, but the fresh fruit drinks with her husband and her son. it's their dog.
Yeah.
So the dog was literally just playing dead because the minute that she walked over to the dog jumped up. She gave the dog some fruit. The dog started running around. And I was like, oh, you've got to be kidding me. I just got duped by this dog. And then here comes James with the burger patty. And I say to him, oh, this dog's an a-hole. I'm like, this dog has a home. This family, it's their dog. And and James was like, well, what do I do with the burger patty? And I said, the dog looks skinny. So I was like, give it to the dog.
Give it to the dog.
The dog went crazy for the burger patty. We did a good deed. The dog was fed and had water. Not well fed because the dog was skinny, but any case, yeah. So that dog definitely did us in.
Yeah. But while all that was going on, I was looking around and they actually sell properties near there. If you're an Americano who is interested in going to Mexico, I can tell you near Cerritos Beach, just outside of Todos Santos, you can find a condo. I think it's a 1-bedroom for around $130K. And then you can find houses all the way up to around the $450K mark. They're not right on the beach, so don't have any delusions about, paying $450,000 and, walking out your front door into the ocean every morning. They're they're a little off the beach. However, it's a pretty idyllic place in terms of, the playa, the beach, the sand, the sun sets and all that. It's on the western side of the peninsula, so you get to see amazing sunsets there.
It's still pretty underdeveloped, and you see buildings that were being built that look like they've been abandoned. So it kind of has that Mexico, a little like old school, old world Mexico feel, because it's like, when we first went to Mexico, so many years ago, 17 years ago, when Ellie was a baby, like you would just drive and you'd see a building that looked like it was started to be built and then like someone stopped. So there's a lot of that near Cerritos Beach, but that's not going to last for long. Like that
No.
property is going to get scooped up. I mean, you can tell that it's going to be developed, and it's going to be developed within the next couple of years.
Yeah. And I guess this is a good place to jump into a little bit of how real estate works in Mexico. Historically, if you were a foreigner and you wanted to buy a piece of property in Mexico, you would basically sign a 30 or a 50-year lease, correct?
Yeah.
And then you would have the option at the end of that lease to repurchase the lease or re-up if your children wanted to keep the property. But technically, you didn't own it. Now, they actually, and I don't know, we asked Alex about this, and I forget when they started doing this, but now there's a different way of purchasing property if you're an American trying to purchase property in Mexico. And that is, you basically create a trust, and the trust owns that piece of property, and you obviously own the trust, I guess.
Yeah.
And so it's a little bit of a middleman. A lot of people have shied away from purchasing property in Mexico, not just for obvious reasons like cartels and crime over the past 20, 30 years, but also because they were fearful of essentially what amounts to eminent domain. Like the government can come in and just seize your property at any point. And when we talk about governments in Mexico, we're talking the local government. Unlike the United States, the local government can have the same, if not more power than the actual federal government.
It's
so
true.
all politics are local in Mexico for sure. There's obviously, they elect a president. There are there are, nationwide implications to everybody they put in elected office. But the bottom line is, if the local cops want to shake you down for protection money, they will.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Obviously, there's a lot of corruption. It's no secret. So we're not telling you anything you don't know about Mexico. So, as always, explore your options and buyer beware. However, just know that in recent years, there's a different mode of purchasing property in Mexico. And I, for one, know at least 2 people that purchased property in Mexico during the pandemic, and have used that as a springboard to, not only continue their careers, but really beef up their retirement accounts, because now they're paying pesos on the dollar, if you will, for, their new homes.
Americans buy property all over the world, and their thought is, I can get it for less, but always be careful because you don't know what, like he said, the local government can do. But to hear that you can now put it through a trust, and I don't know how that is different and how that stops a government from taking it from you, but it is, I guess, another safeguard. So while we were in Cabo San Lucas, before we left, not while we were there, but before we left, we knew that we were going to be heading to Mexico City because I have always wanted to go to Mexico City for easily the last 7 or 8 years. And just my family would never go. I mean, if the girls have a vacation, they're not going to spend it in another city. They want to spend it on the beach. So I always said, well, look, when James and I can do our own vacation, I want to do Mexico City. So when I knew we were going to Cabo, I thought this was the best time to check out Mexico City. Because Alex, our tour guide, was so informative with Todos Santos, I really wanted to find a tour guide to help us in Mexico City. I knew a couple of things going into Mexico City. One, you have to speak Spanish. It's not like Cabo or Playa or Puerto Vallarta or any of those, resort towns where you can get away with, resort Spanish or even just plain English. Mexico City is Mexico City. It is not a resort town. Yes, they do welcome tourists, but you need to speak their language. So I knew that would be challenging. And I just thought it would be kind of nice to have someone like Alex with us. Well, Alex actually offered to come to Mexico City with us.
Yeah.
We were going to be there for 4 days and he was going to spend 3 of them with us. So we were super excited about that. But unfortunately, like the day before or 2 days before we were about to leave, he told me that, he's getting married and he said he just had too much to do with planning the wedding. But his company also had someone in Mexico City that could take us on a tour for 3 days. And that person's name was Fernando, and he was incredible.
Yes.
So when we left Cabo and headed to Mexico City, we had no idea what kind of hands we were in. We knew that Alex was extremely knowledgeable, but really didn't know to what extent Fernando was. And we were pleasantly surprised.
Yeah, he was the man. Fernando, mi otro hermano. Fernando picked us up. Well, okay, so we arrived in Mexico City. We had a little fun trying to figure out which terminal our hotel was attached to. We already knew which terminal. Getting from one terminal to the other terminal. It wasn't
even figuring it out. We didn't know. Like there was no figuring it out. Here's what happened. I booked a night at the Marriott in the airport. So there's 2, which we found out when we got there. There's actually 2 hotels in the Mexico City airport. And we were getting in so late on Saturday night that I felt like it made no sense to get in a cab and travel to our hotel. Why not just stay in the airport hotel? So there's a Marriott. It made the most sense. I was like, I'll book the Marriott. But what I learned was that the Marriott is actually in Terminal 1. We were in Terminal 2, and you have to call the Marriott to get a shuttle. So I didn't know what terminal we would be arriving in. I had no idea, but I did know that it was just a phone call away, their shuttle. Yeah, an hour later. So now it's like midnight and I'm so irritated.
Yeah, but we made it eventually. The guy came. It was pretty obvious we were interrupting his night.
Oh,
yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yep, for sure.
Because he didn't say but one word to us, which was fine. We were so perturbed at the moment. We were just like,
I
seriously?
couldn't say one word to him either.
Yeah.
And I couldn't because I don't speak Spanish.
Yeah. Well, there's that. But cut to the next morning. We survived that night. They
upgraded our room, by the way. So they were very nice when I got there. She said, I'm so sorry because after a while, I just start torturing people. Yeah. So after like 30 minutes of this guy not showing up, I just kept calling the hotel like every 10 minutes and they just wanted to be done with me. So when we arrived, she said, I'm really sorry, and gave me an upgrade, but it was so late. I could have cared less about the upgrade. I was like, I want to get to my room.
Yeah. Just keys, please.
Yeah. But I did learn a valuable lesson. Like Aeromexico flies into Terminal 2. So book the HF That's what it is. H is in Harry, F is in Frank, the HF Hotel in Terminal 2. Do not book the Marriott. Oh, and by the way, I don't know what your local airport is like, but I can tell you Terminal 1 and Terminal 2 in Mexico City Airport is not walkable. In fact, it's about a 10-minute drive from Terminal 1 to Terminal 2.
Yeah. It's not like Orlando or Salt Lake where you just
Any
like jump
airport.
on a shuttle that takes you to some other terminal.
Or walk.
It was a schlep for sure.
Yeah. So so that was definitely a lesson learned. But go ahead. So what happened the next day?
So the next morning, Fernando picked us up. We immediately went down to Centro Historico region, right?
Yeah.
Central Historic region in Mexico City. We went to the Palacio Nacional, the National Palace, I believe, the courtyard there. So picture, if you will,
22 million people.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Did we leave that out? Mexico City has 22 million people. That's twice the size of LA. I don't know. I mean, I think any city in America pales in comparison.
22
I don't think New York can match that, right?
People.
There aren't 22 million in New York.
I don't think so.
Yeah. Anyway. A lot of people. And we saw half of them on the way to Palacio Nacional. Of course, the morning we arrived, we were not aware just how frequent it is, but there was a protest going on. And so if you picture, first off, the like a lot of us have been to Spain where they have these like sort of courtyard patios or what have you that just go on for a while, and they're surrounded by government buildings. A lot of tourists take their photos there or anything. I mean, this town square in the center of Mexico City was so huge.
I mean, the palace sort of looks like, and although I've never been, Buckingham Palace, that's how enormous it is. The square where they were protesting, it was enormous. It was like the Red Square. Didn't it look like the Red Square?
Yeah, you would. Yeah, I guess you could picture like Ruskies walking around and marching.
It was huge. Yeah.
But only this had obviously the Mexican flavor. There was a basilica there. There were all sorts
pyramids. There was a pyramid.
Yeah, there was a pyramid right there.
Yeah,
you're right.
It's crazy.
So we'll get into the geography and how Mexico City works in a second. But
one thing really quick, you may think that the people of Mexico are controlled by the government, controlled by the cartel, and that very well may be true, but they still like to protest.
Yep. And so the morning we were there, they were protesting because they support the president. He's trying to integrate some election reforms. It depends on who you talk to in Mexico City, whether or not that's going to ever be successful, given the fact that most of their politicians are in the pocket of the cartel. Mm-hmm. So,
and we got a lot of information about that, which we'll share.
Yeah. But we got to go around there. I mean, I'm pretty sure it's the biggest town square. I say town square.
It's city square.
Yeah, it's a city square. It's the biggest city square.
How many miles do you think it is?
In the world, I believe, Fernando told us, like, you can't go to Paris and experience the same like sort of, ability to congregate.
So if I stood at one end of the square and you were at the other end of the square, would you say it's a mile, 2 miles?
It's not 2. It was probably easily a mile.
Okay. Yeah, I think
3/4 of a mile.
What was really crazy, and I don't know, I know you have said before that protest was for the president. I don't think you're right. I think the little group of people we saw that were there singing, they were for the president. But he said that actual protest was about election. And I think we happened to stumble across a group that were pro-president. But I don't think that whole protest was pro-president.
No, I don't know. According to him, it was that was a day where all the pros were out, and then the very next day,
why would
there was another protest.
Gear? Why would the cops have riot gear if this is a pro-president protest?
I mean, you still can't trust that many people. Like, what if there's 1 or 2 people in the crowd who are like,
well, it was kind of
we've
crazy.
experienced that here in the United States.
I know, that's true. It was kind of crazy. We're literally walking up to the presidential palace and there's a protest going on. There's police officers. There was a couple hundred police officers in riot gear. And I look at Fernando.
Like, welcome to Mexico City.
And I say, should we be here? And he
Yeah.
was like, oh, yeah, this is fine. And I was like,
Huh?
this is crazy. And then what also was crazy is that, the White House, if people protest something in our country and they go to the White House, there's the White House. There's, I don't know how many acres of yard and lawn. Then you have the street. Then you have a fence. I mean, it's like
Yeah, then
you
they can put
can't
up
get
fencing.
anywhere near the White House. Here, you could walk right up to the president's door and knock. There was like no gate. There was nothing. The only thing was that they had those wooden horses in front of his house. Again, it looked like Buckingham Palace. They had wooden horses, but that was just for the protest. I don't know what it looks like on a normal day because every day we were there,
There was a protest.
it was insane. But I kept saying to Fernando, I'm like, hold on, wait a second. Is the president in this house right now? And he goes, oh, yeah, he's in there. And I said, is he married? He's like, oh, yeah, he's married. And I go, is his wife in the house right now? And he goes, oh, yeah, she's there too. I'm like, okay, so hold on. Everyone is protesting outside of his door with no gate, no wall. They're literally standing outside of his door. And he goes, yeah. I'm like, so he can hear them. He goes, oh, yeah, he can hear them. It was insane. He literally was probably looking out a window going, are they still there?
Yeah. It's funny because I feel like I've seen more of a police presence for a shirtless guy on Hollywood Boulevard. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah, I agree.
in Los Angeles, like if,
They had the
it's a
200
bit of an exaggeration.
riot police, but they were all just chilled. Like
Yeah.
they were leaning against
were
the
all hanging.
wall. They were leaning on the barricades. Like nobody was really like
No.
standing to attention.
Although I will say, you mentioned like you could walk right up to his door and
You
knock on
literally
it.
could.
I challenge you to try and do that. I think like I think there would have been some sort of better response if somebody
Okay,
like
but
starts
if
marching
they
up to the
didn't-
president's door.
If they didn't protest every single day we were there, I would have actually had an opportunity to see if there are guards in front of his house. Like there's got to be, right? But like there's no gate. There's no nothing. There's the mayor of LA has a gate in front of his house. You know what I mean? It's like there was nothing.
Yeah. I don't know. To me, it just kind of proved what, Fernando told us. And that is so many politicians are in the pocket of the cartel that, they're just kind of not afraid. I mean, so there's some protesters outside. It doesn't matter. I'm sure once you're behind that door, they are armed to the teeth and they're ready to go. So anyway, we walked around that for a while, but frankly, we were starving. So we decided to basically just tell him like wherever we stop next, it better have food. So
I couldn't like tell him any more times like, yeah. Where's the food? I kept saying, yeah. Where's the restaurant? Like, yeah. Because it was, I think like 2:00 at this point. He picked us up at 10 and we hadn't had breakfast. So he took us to this local place that, they're known to, it's a chain restaurant, but it's owned by a family and they're known to have restaurants in like the most beautiful architecturally designed, buildings. So we were in a building called the Tile Building.
the House of Tiles.
Oh, yeah, the House of
in
Tiles.
Spanish, Casa de los Azulejos.
And there's a history, there's a story to that building where like one of the wealthy families came in from Spain. They got the building and to show off and show how wealthy they were, they decided to tile that building from head to toe with beautiful tiles. And so
in one weekend, there were rumors that
I forgot about
there
that.
were rumors in the city that this family was not as wealthy as they purported to be. So
They had to show them.
the patriarch of the family had the whole house retiled in the Talavera style. I believe it's Talavera tiles. Very smooth. It's porcelain. Is it porcelain? I don't know. They're expensive though. It's not ceramic tile.
No.
So it's a very expensive tile that you can find. I believe it started in Spain, but then also all through Mexico.
Was this like in the 1800s or early 1900s? I can't remember. I just remember it was a long time ago.
I think it was in the 1800s. Yeah.
I was like, wow, it doesn't matter the time. People always were wealthy.
We took a photo of this place and I sent it to the girls and they're like, oh, that place is so pretty. And I was like, yeah, it used to be somebody's house. And they're like, shut up. It was that beautiful.
Yeah.
Pro tip though, there's a line all the time. Like it's
called Sanborn's, the place.
It's a crowded place. So if you can't get into the beautiful courtyard inside, I mean, it's sort of like your typical 1800s house where, you know, there's a big wooden front door and you get through the front door and then there's a courtyard and then you look up and there are rooms all over the place. And if you can't get seated right there in that area, there are all kinds of tables there where you can have your desayuno, your breakfast, your lunch, all that stuff. Pro tip, there's an area in the back where you can get the exact same food,
same menu, everything.
Yeah, and where a lot of the locals go just to grab a quick lunch.
It was
and
a
super
counter.
reasonably priced.
It was a lunch counter, like literally like a diner.
It was
lunch
Mel's
counter.
Diner, basically, on the backside of this place. So that's where we went because
we didn't care. We were hungry.
We were starving. We didn't want to wait. And frankly, it gave us a better chance to get to know Fernando and talk about, you know, what the next couple of days had in store. And I guess the one thing we should mention to everybody right now that's kind of important is that, you know, we can be bougie and we talk bougie once in a while, but the fact of the matter is it was expensive hiring a tour guide for like 4 days. But there's no way we could have packed as much into those 4 days we were there, and we'd never have as much info that we could share with you right now had we not paid this guy. For us, it was worth every penny, not just because we talk about going back to Mexico City, but we've also talked about going back to Paris, and we've yet to do that. So we wanted to pack as much into this trip as possible. For us, just for the podcast and our own travel experience alone, it was worth every penny. So highly recommend. For a couple $100 a day. The bottom line is, for a couple $100, you're going to learn way more about Mexico City, specifically what areas to go, what not to go, what to spend your time on, what not to spend your time on, great places to eat. So bringing it back to the House of Tiles, it was an amazing kickoff. I had some sort of verde green soup with chicken in it. It was so good. It was so delicious.
I had enchiladas and they were delicious. And I had rice pudding and it was delicious. And we had guacamole and then
Enchiladas.
And then we had sopes. We had, oh my gosh, everything was delicious. Sopas. That's right.
Yeah.
The one thing I want to mention about Fernando and the tour guide is that, look, you could do Mexico City on your own for sure. Like, there's no question about it. You can look it up. You can look at the destinations that we went to and go there yourself. It's just that when you have someone who's a local, you see everything through the eyes of that person. And there's just a different experience in that altogether.
Yeah. And just for the reasons we've talked about, you know, when we were talking about our ride with Alejandro, it's like we could pepper them with questions about politics, everything you thought you knew about Mexico as an American, you didn't know.
Like I asked him, why do you guys protest? I asked him, why do you protest? I actually asked Alejandro this question. I said, why? Because, you know, we have a lot of people from Mexico and Los Angeles. I said, why do Mexicans in Los Angeles drive so slow, but in Mexico, they drive so fast?
Yeah.
And we learned that they don't need to take a test in Mexico. All you do is fill out an application.
Yep. And that's it. You just go fill out the application. You have to be a certain age, right?
18.
Yeah. 18.
I think you have to be 18 years old and that's it. So there's no rules, there's no laws, there's nothing when it comes to driving in Mexico. So you see these crazy drivers and you think, why are they driving crazy? Well, because no one will stop them.
Yeah.
But
it was pretty
LA,
apparent.
LAPD will stop you.
Oh yeah, for sure. It was pretty apparent driving through Mexico City that a lot of people had never taken a test before.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. And so, you know, we should probably talk about that for a minute. So Fernando took us around, obviously in his car the entire time. People talk about the pollution there. And one of the things that we experienced was that because of the pollution issue, they don't allow you to drive your car every day. So what they do is that they will tell you what days of the week, if your car however your car is registered, it's done by number. So if your registration starts with the number 2, you can't drive your car that week, maybe on Monday or Wednesday. But if your car is a number 3, then you can drive it on Monday and Wednesday, but you may not be able to drive it on Tuesday. So they do some sort of system, numbered system, where some days you can drive your car and some days you can't. So I asked Fernando a question that, how would you even know to ask somebody this? What do you do as a tour guide? Like, your business depends on your transportation in your car. And it was funny because every day he would say to me, I don't know what car I'm picking you up tomorrow in, because I don't know if my number's going to be called. And what that meant was he would borrow a car from somebody who maybe had a
Yeah.
number 2. If his car started with a number 3 and he couldn't drive because of the pollution levels, and they made everyone with a number 3 stay home, he's like, I'll get a car with a number 2. So it was pretty interesting. I did ask him, because traffic is so horrendous, the cars don't move because there are 22 million people. I said to him, do they do this car thing because of pollution or controlling the amount of cars on the street? He said, and again, it's just his opinion, he said he thought it was both, but the government would never, ever say they're trying to control the amount of cars on the street, because there would be another
Protest.
Yes. So we said if the people found out that the government was controlling the amount of cars that were on the street, people would protest. So he's like, the government doesn't say that. He said they just talk about the pollution levels and how they're trying to curtail the pollution levels. And that is why some days you'll drive with, certain cars, and other days those people will have to stay home that, didn't fall in that number system. One day we drove with him and there were very few cars on the street. And I said, wow, there's like no traffic today. And he's like, because there's an advisory. He's
Yeah.
like, so a lot of people couldn't drive their car today. And then the next day there was no advisory and you couldn't move. The car couldn't move.
Yeah, there was one day where it was just brutal with him, like getting
I
back.
fell asleep. You fell asleep. It was so bad.
Well, I couldn't fall asleep. You fell asleep.
Oh.
And then I felt really bad if I were to fall asleep. So I fought staying awake so that I could, but he didn't even want to talk at that point. I think it was
We
his
had
third,
such a long
it was his
day.
third day with us. He was kind of like, I've told you everything you need to know, people. So
Yeah.
anyway, so let's rewind a little bit and go back to, we left the House of Tiles. We had an amazing meal. Then what happened?
That was the very first full day. Then we just went back to our hotel. I mean, we were both like exhausted. We didn't have a long day with him, but we were just tired from the night before, getting into Mexico City late, and we got up, I felt, kind of early. Any case, we just chilled at our hotel that night. We didn't even,
Yeah,
I
so-
think you walked around.
But we
I
should
ended
say
up
we
staying
moved
in.
hotels that night. And where do we go from the
Well,
Marriott?
So Sunday morning when he picked us up from the Marriott, he brought us to our hotel in the historic district Sunday afternoon. So we did a little tour in the morning and the afternoon, and then we checked into our hotel around 3:00. And then we just stayed in our room. It seems like a wasted day, but I was pretty tired. You walked around
What
quite
was
a
our
bit.
hotel name?
Historico.
Centro Historico?
Yeah, Centro
Okay.
Historico.
Yeah, it was great. Super boutique hotel. You walk
It was
in,
amazing.
great, and really reasonable, if I
Yeah,
remember.
it was like I think it was $120 a night. And if you paid a little extra, which I did for James and I, you got access to the 24-hour cafe, which had everything from salads to paninis to smoothies and beer, and they were open 24
Coffee,
hours.
yeah.
Coffee, whatever you wanted. So I paid
The
a
only
little
thing
extra.
you paid for was like wine and sparkling water. I remember they told me.
Yeah,
was like,
I didn't
oh, I
drink
guess-
either, so it didn't cost me anything.
Yeah, we skipped that.
But so I think in the end, with taxes and everything, the room was $160 a night, and it was something that you would have seen at, like, I don't know, just think of any high-end hotel. It wasn't the Four Seasons, it wasn't the Ritz-Carlton, because they have those there,
Yeah.
but it was a higher-end hotel with lots of character. The staff was amazing. It was called Hotel Historico Centro. I think that's the exact name.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
And it was right downtown near the Presidential Palace. It was
super clean.
It's in the historic district. So it's a really great place for tourists to stay, but a lot of locals come and visit, but nobody lives down there because it is so loud.
The place is constantly bustling. And if it's not bustling with tourism or people out looking for churros at 3 a.m.,
Yep.
if it's not bustling with city folk, then, there's nothing to say a cement truck won't pull up to the building next door and the guys will start working all through the night.
That's true.
We heard there was one night in the hotel where we heard them just like rattling plumbing all night long.
Yeah.
So,
and I wasn't sure where we were going to stay. My sister-in-law's friend's an airline stewardess, and she suggested that we stay at the Sheraton on Reforma Avenue. And I was actually going to stay there. Reforma is a very, very popular street to walk on. So I was like, oh, perfect. We walk outside our hotel and, we could just walk down Reforma. But then my other friend actually posted pictures. It was so random from her trip to Mexico City. And I reached out. Yeah, Gina. And I reached out to her and I said, where did you stay? And she's like, oh, you want to stay in the historic district. And you know what? I'm so glad I did, because every single person that we talked to, everyone said, oh, the historic district is great. That's a great area. I mean, no one like poo-pooed it at all. So
yeah.
I was really happy we stayed there. There was lots to do and you can do everything on foot.
Yeah. Plus they actually have a sister hotel. What's the name of that? Do you remember the name?
I'm going to say it wrong. It's Zocalo Central, because the other one was Historico Centro, Hotel Historico Central. And this is Hotel Zocalo Central, the sister hotel.
Okay, got it.
And that was incredible.
Yeah.
That is in a building with an old elevator. Oh my gosh, the restaurant was on the rooftop. It was magical. And you could literally walk right to the edge of the restaurant and look at the presidential palace and the square. It was in the square area. It was beautiful.
So you could,
they were protesting the one night.
They were protesting the one night. Yeah. But you could look out, over the balcony and just see the square down below.
Yeah.
It was pretty magnificent. So hotel was great. Sister hotel was even better. So we'll probably stay there next time, I would imagine. Yeah.
Yeah. I want to try it. It was really cool.
So props to Gina for the tip. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
And then the next day we woke up and it was pyramid time.
Yeah. So why don't you talk a little bit about that?
So around 150 to 200 BC, there were some Teotihuacans, which were part of a tribe in Mexico. A lot of Americans joke and call them Titiwakans.
They do? I've never heard of that.
Yeah.
Oh, get out of here.
It's like,
where do you hear this?
I don't know. I'm a
Where
guy.
did you
I'm
hear
a guy,
this?
so,
I've never even heard of that term, and now there's a slang for it.
Guys do guy shit. So, Titiwaka. Anyway, so this tribe started building pyramids, and around 700 BC, they basically had 3 pyramids built. One was for the sun, obviously a very large pyramid.
Mm-hmm.
One was for the moon, and the third one was the Temple of the Feathered Serpent, Quetzalcoatl. I'm not sure the Teotihuacans paid homage to this god, but basically it was a feathered serpent god, part man, part god, who also dwelled in the underworld, saved men's lives from going to Hades or hell or something like that. Anyway, pretty scary looking dude, and they built a pyramid in honor of this feathered serpent god. Not really sure what happened to the Teotihuacans, but I think it was around the 1300s, the Aztecs discovered this place and then quickly, learned from the construction and started remodeling these pyramids, restoring the land nearby. Obviously, there was a lot of growth and all that other stuff. And then we all know how mighty the Aztec kingdom was up until the time the Spaniards arrived, I think somewhere around the 1600s. So
Fernando really did explain the difference too between the Aztec and the Mayans. The Aztecs are the people to the in northern Mexico, and the Mayans are in southern Mexico. We knew a little bit about Mayan culture just because we'd been to Playa del Carmen, and that's where the Mayans are. But he went into like their characteristics, what they look like, what they wear, what they believe, and how they built the city and all of that. I mean, so obviously you can go to Wikipedia and figure that out yourself, or you could hire a tour guide.
Yeah. So for us, obviously hiring a tour guide, we were able to download quickly a lot of information from him in just one visit. The big takeaway was the Aztecs were no joke when it came to arts, philosophy, They had their own calendar. They had, just like the Mayans, I guess.
Yep. But they were very strong. Remember, he said just built the way they were built. They were just a strong,
sturdy people.
Yes.
Yeah. So, and a lot of warriors. It was a warrior culture.
Warrior. That's exactly the word he used.
Although they did have lots of temples, lots of artwork on the walls. When we went to the archaeological museum, we were able to see things that we could not see at the pyramids obviously being out in the elements and decayed. We were able to see, sort of get a real flavor for the actual pigments that they used in their paints and all that great stuff. Super cool if you're into, if you've ever seen the movie Apocalypto, whatever that Mel Gibson film was.
Apocalypto.
Yeah.
Because we've seen it a couple times.
Whatever. I think that's more of a Mayan culture, but we've been to Tulum. I haven't been to Chichen Itza. But anyway, all through.
Apocalypto.
Yeah. Apocalypto. So all through the Mexican, nation, there are plenty of these pyramids everywhere you go in different regions. So obviously being outside of Mexico City, that was the Aztec region, got to learn about a lot about the Aztecs. The pyramids were great.
What was really cool about the pyramids, I just have to interject here. Yeah. Archaeologists are still working on them. So while we were there were tents set up, where people were still like with the little brushing things. Yeah. It was very cool.
I know. I tried my hardest to look in there and see
I did too.
what they were, but it was just like pitch black. And so I didn't get really a glimpse of anything. But yeah, I guess around the 1980s, they found about 100 warriors' remains and, learning a lot still at this point from the tombs. And you could tell how the wealthy lived in their courtyards and their houses. And, anyway, it was cool, but it was also hot and we were ready to get out of the sun after a while.
It was we were at the pyramids for about, I'd say 3 hours, because the 3 pyramids that James just mentioned, they are close in proximity when you look at them from your car, but to walk to each one is quite a distance, probably a mile. Yeah. And so he was kind enough, like if you're on a tour with a tour bus, they're not loading up that bus for you. Oh no. You paid $20 for that tour. You're walking.
That's right.
He brought us back in his air conditioned car and drove us to the next pyramid and then drove us to the next pyramid. It was great. Do you want to talk about the stairs?
Oh, the stairs are really steep. Oh my Lord. These things.
I took a video.
Sure there were going to be some grandmas spilling.
No, there were people on their tushies coming down, but there were big people and I couldn't even look at them because I don't know how they didn't tumble.
I had to go down sideways.
Just
being so tall and they're so steep.
No, but the weight of some of these people, how did not I'm trying to figure out the length of the stair, the weight of their body, the height of going up. How did they not tumble?
Yeah.
How did they not tumble?
And we asked Fernando, we said, hey, how often do you see people fall here? Because as Americans, this is information you really want to know.
Completely.
And he goes, no, I've never seen anybody fall. And I was like, shut up.
That's
You're
crap.
lying.
He's lying.
You're
for
totally
sure.
lying.
I took a video of the stairs and I took a little video of James walking up the stairs, but I actually had to stop looking because
he's gonna fall.
He's gonna fall, and
he's
I just
clumsy.
didn't want to see it. I didn't want to see him fall to his peril in front of me.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. So
somebody could have tapped me on the shoulder and be like, "Is that your husband?" That would have been fine. But for me to actually physically see it, I couldn't do it.
It would have been messy. It would have been just.
I don't know why you did it. To me, the stairs went straight up.
We were
there was no incline.
I feel like we have to do it. It was.
It was frightening.
It wasn't even physical. Oh, so let's talk about altitude. So the physical conditioning part of climbing the stairs, it was fine. I mean, whatever. If you work out every once in a while, you're going to be fine climbing up the stairs.
There was
no
old
big deal.
people climbing those stairs.
Totally.
Anybody
Totally
could climb the stairs if you
it's
want
just the danger,
to take your life in your own hands.
It's just the danger factor of falling down. Obviously, I don't know. They're like little Mexican people from hundreds of years ago. Their feet are little,
I know,
so
it's true.
Me and my size 12 Nikes, forget it, man. I was I have to walk down sideways. And that's exactly what I did.
I did see professionals because it looked like they were professional hikers going in a zigzag. And I was like, oh, like if James
yeah.
makes it down here, I need to tell him you should go in a zigzag next time.
Yeah. There were a couple of people that had like jaguar blood in them and they were just like zipping up and zipping back
That
down.
was, yeah.
That wasn't me.
I couldn't watch them.
But I will talk about the altitude. So we got up there and he's showing me certain things.
Altitude's an issue.
Yeah.
For sure.
Mexico City is higher than Denver. So if you ever go to Denver and you get a little short of wind, just walking around the candy store to the restaurant to the shopping center. Mexico City is a little bit more deep than that. Plus there's a smog factor. Standing on top of the one pyramid overlook, I started as I was listening to him talk and everything, there was a moment where I was like, ooh, I feel like I've lost all the reserve oxygen in my lungs and I had to like really inhale to like fill up my lungs again. It was pretty crazy. So I was like, I had never, like I've been to a bunch of places, but I've never experienced altitude like that, like where I've had that sensation. So I was like, either I'm getting really old or we're really high or both. But
both.
Anyway, so that was kind of it for the pyramids. We walked around. They were fantastic to look at, but by the third pyramid, you're kind of like, wrap it up.
Yeah, and he did, and we wrapped it up in a restaurant.
We did. We went
So another great part of a tour guide who is a local is that he will take you to places that the average tour bus won't take you.
Yeah.
So for instance, as we're leaving the pyramid, he specifically said to us, okay, that tour bus is going to go to that restaurant, but I am going to take you to this restaurant. He said this restaurant is family owned. The mom and the grandma are in the kitchen cooking, and the food is phenomenal. And in that area, so when you go to different parts of any country, you're going to taste the food fare of that certain region. So the area that we were in, even though it was 45 minutes outside of Mexico City, which isn't very far, he said everyone cooks with a certain type of cactus, whether they use the cactus juice in a food or they wrap the food in the cactus skin or they use the flower to make a cocktail. Everything is based around a certain cactus in this area. And so he said, when you go to this restaurant, you're going to want to order this dish because they bake it in the skin of the cactus. And so we ordered that dish and it was lamb and it was really delicious.
Yeah, so barbacoa is a way of life in that region. The Spanish introduced it. It's lamb and it's got a little bit of a sauce to it, a little seasoning, little barbecue type flavor, Mexican style.
Yeah, it was delicious.
It was really good.
It was, yeah. And he did say this is what is known in this area. So you should try it. And we did. And then there was a cocktail with a cactus juice, which is really just another name for a pear. It was a pear, like a
prickly pear.
Yes, that's it.
Yeah.
Prickly pear. Yes.
Something similar to what you had in New Mexico in Santa Fe.
Very similar. And so I had that and
a lot of mescaline, a lot of mezcal instead of tequila.
Which is very smoky. So it's different than a tequila for sure. It's a very smoky flavor.
Well, the name of the restaurant is Mayahuel, Mayahhuel. Family-owned restaurant, super great waiters. They do include the tip, but the tip is only 10% on your tab, something like that. So if you get amazing service like we did, you want to be mindful that you want to throw a couple extra ducats in there and really like treat your servers well. They really appreciate it. Such a small town. $5 goes a long way. That's a lot of pesos. What is that? Times 20. 5 times 20 is 100. So it's basically 100 pesos for them that they can use to help feed their families, do whatever.
Let's talk about, since we're on the topic of pesos.
Well, real quick, though, I want to mention the place you don't want to go is La Gruta.
That's where the bus was going.
That's where.
Oh my gosh. Tell him what he said about that place.
Okay, so everybody wants to go there because it's a cave. And you go in there and you can have your lunch and your drinks inside a cave. And
there's no doors.
Rustic.
It's literally a cave.
Yeah. He said, at night, all the animals come and they're basically grazing in and out of there, figuring out what food they can find, moving about freely amongst the cave naturally. So coyotes, bobcats.
Yeah, like whatever animals are of that
Yeah.
region, he said we're not eating there.
But he said even so, it doesn't matter whether the animals are in or out, whether the food is sanitary or not. He said the food's just not great there. It was better at the place we went. So try out Maya Huel.
Say that 3 times.
Maya Huel. Might as well Maya Huel.
There you go.
I just made a new motto for the restaurant.
You did.
I wonder how you say it. Won't
Might as well
translate
Maya
in
Huel.
Spanish.
The great thing about Fernando was asking him, would you eat there?
Yeah.
Because when he said
He was
no,
always honest. Yeah.
we were like, oh, we're not eating there.
Yeah. Denise asked him, so these street vendors, these places right here, are these safe to eat if we go? Because when we were in Puerto Vallarta, we went to the downtown area and there were all kind of street talk. We've done it in Playa, Playa del Carmen,
Puerto Vallarta, Playa.
We've done it everywhere. And he's like, oh God, no, I would never eat there. Are you kidding me?
Yeah. And I asked him, I said,
Local.
why wouldn't you eat there? Like they look delicious. And his answers were so logical. He said, well, there's a lot of pollution and the food is sitting open air and all the dirt from the air is getting on the food. He said they don't wash their hands. He said, and their water isn't filtered water. He said, so if they're rinsing it, he said, it's not filtered water. He said, the only people that eat the street food are families who are extremely poor, and you can get 5 tacos for like literally a couple pesos. He said, so, it'll go a long way, but I'm a local and I wouldn't eat at any of the street vendors. He would also say restaurants too, like we would be driving. He's like, don't eat there, don't eat there. And I would say, why? He goes, look at it. It looks dirty. He's like, he's like, it's just, basic common sense. He's like, if it doesn't look good, don't go. And so we found ourselves like texting him saying, hey, Fernando, should we go here? But he really knew all the good places to go. So we really didn't have to ask too many. I had to ask him about a churro place. That was it. But yeah. So let's talk about the money that people make in Mexico, because that's a big topic there. And the one thing I can honestly say is, as a tourist, you don't want to have a conversation with locals or act like around locals that everything is so cheap. It's very rude. There's no other word for it. It's very rude that you do that. So as much as everything is cheaper for Americans and Europeans, you just keep that shit under wraps. You don't brag about it. You don't talk about it. Like I would ask Fernando all the time, how much is this? And he would tell me, and I would say, oh, that's reasonable. Or I would say, oh, that's expensive. Now, the interesting thing about it is, as reasonable or inexpensive as things are for you and me, Mexico City is still a very expensive city to live in if you're a local. So here's how it works in Mexico City. I'm just going to put everything in American dollars. So an average like construction worker or city worker makes $4 a day. If you went to college there and you graduated college and you work at a hotel as the receptionist or a hotel as the concierge, you would make $15 a day. Now, if you found yourself graduating the university and wanting a office job, you will find you're going to make $30 a day. And that is it. If you go to med school to go see a doctor, you only pay $1.50. So you're a doctor in Mexico City working for, like, let's just say an average hospital. You're not a private doctor. We're just saying like you work at the clinic or you work at the pharmacy as a doctor, because they have doctors at pharmacies too. You're only your patients, your clients, your customers are only paying $1.50 to see
per
you.
visit. Yeah.
So you can imagine how much that doctor is making. So the only way to be wealthy in Mexico is to be born into the caste system or to be part of the cartel. It is very, very difficult to make money in Mexico City if you are a local and you aren't born into a wealthy family, because everything there is is controlled by families. So like I would see a beautiful building and I would say, "Oh my gosh, Fernando, how much would this building cost to buy?" And he would say, "Oh, well, in American dollars, it would be like maybe $1 million," which is a lot of money. And I would say, "Wow, like who can afford that?" He's like, "Oh," he's like, "That's one of the Mexican families that own that building." So everyone knows that there are a handful of Mexican families that basically own everything. So it is very, very hard to work your way out of poverty in Mexico. Like where in America, you work hard, you work hard, you work 2 jobs, you do this, you do that, you can climb up the ladder. There is no ladder to climb up in Mexico,
Yeah,
unfortunately.
upward mobility is really an issue there. Fernando told us a story of how he was a hotel clerk or manager
Yeah.
at some point, which is actually how he met Alejandro, the other tour guide from Cabo. They were both
I
working.
don't think he was a manager. I think he worked behind the desk, he said.
He said he did all kinds of
okay.
positions there. And I think at one point he was
You could be
either
right.
working as a manager or he was up for a manager position. He said it's nothing for one of the wealthy families, typically a family that is more Spanish, #white, to have. So if all things are equal, you have the same degree, the whiter person is going to get the job. So
It's
the one
crazy.
who has less Indian Mexican blood in them is basically always going to get the job. So they have their own caste system there that is similar to what you would experience. I think, well, India is probably an extreme example, but, obviously they need workers because they're a very industrious society, 22 million people living in a huge metropolis, but there are caps and ceilings on what the average, I'm going to use the word Indian Mexican, person can achieve.
That's
citizen.
true. Mm-hmm.
So
yeah, and he said Indian, by the way, if you didn't know this, Indian is Indian, whether you live in America or you live in Mexico, Indians are Indians. He made that really clear. He's like, so when I say Indian, it's the same as Indian in America. And so he's right. If you look like you're a Mexican Indian or have darker skin, your chances of being the face of a hotel or the face of a rental car company or whatever it may be is not going to happen.
yeah, diminished for sure.
So when we heard about the wages, I mean, when he said $4 and James goes, "Oh, an hour?" And he goes, "No, a day."
Yeah, it was pretty flabbergasted.
And then when you look at the prices of everything there, obviously, bringing the dollar in is, our dollar goes much further. But when you look at the prices and you compare it to what people are making, it is a very expensive city. And we actually spent some time with an American that lives there. That it's a client of mine from my business, a permanent makeup. Her daughter lives there, and we spent an afternoon with her. And I said something to her about it being expensive, and she said Mexico City is very expensive. She said, if you're local and born here, it's a very, very expensive city. She's like, if you're visiting or you're bringing in dollars from another country, you can live like a king, but it's not cheap.
And naturally, because they're so accustomed to Americans or Euros coming there and saying, "Oh yeah, we love coming here. It's so much fun, and everything's so cheap."
It's rude.
That they really sort of take offense to that. Yeah, because
Yep.
they're all struggling to get by. It's a tough lifestyle for them. So word to the wise, don't talk about how everything cheap is until you're back in your hotel room with your significant other.
And tip everyone well, because like James said, he gave the waiter an extra $5. That was 100 pesos. And if you think about it, they're only making $4 a day. And that guy that James tipped the extra $5 made $5 in an hour. That's enormous.
Yeah.
So don't be cheap when you go there.
No, remember the cabbie? I actually slipped on my math, and the cab ride was like $8 or something like that, and I gave him 13. And he stopped the car when we got to our hotel. He stopped, he got out, he said, "Wait a minute." And then he opened the trunk and he gave you a bracelet, and he gave me like a little men's bracelet and all that stuff. And he was just he kept saying, "God bless you," over and over again. And I was like, oh my, like for $5, like $5 just for a quick little ride,
I know
meant
you
the
think
world to
about
him.
it. It's like
Yeah.
a coffee for you and I, but that will feed his family.
Yeah.
Like, so you just have to be super respectful when you go there.
Yeah.
And, you know,
And the other thing is like, so going back to speaking Spanish while you're there,
oh,
I
it's
took
a
3 years of
must.
Spanish in school, so I know resort Spanish. I can get by. I can buy regalos and gifts. I can talk almuerzo and lunch. I can talk, I can get through all those things. However,
I had to hold up a phone on
yeah,
Google Translate.
Denise holds up the phone and lets him read it. But I will say that when you're cool and you are attempting to speak Spanish, like there was a kid the night you were missing socks. You ran out of socks. And so you were resting back at the hotel. I went to get you a pair of socks, and I got through the whole exchange speaking Spanish with the cashier, who was a young guy who's probably like 22. He was the age of our kids easily. And and then he zinged me with one question, and I looked at him and I go, "No say, like I don't know what you're saying." And he goes, "I'm just asking if anybody helped you." I was like, I go, "No, nobody helped me with the socks." I go, "Thank you for translating." We both I laughed. I was like a little like red faced, embarrassed because I was trying so hard to get my Spanish going. But more work to do in Duolingo.
Well, look, like we're big believers as much as, okay, I was really bad when we went to
You were
Paris, but I
horrible
know,
when we went
but
to
I am a
Paris.
big believer that if you're going to visit a country, you can't expect them to speak your language. So you have to know their language. And look, we're lucky. Like most countries speak English. We're very
Yeah.
fortunate as Americans, but you should still at least try.
Yeah, and
so
unlike
my
Parisian,
trying is holding up the
yeah,
phone.
unlike Parisians who expect you to speak like perfect French when you're talking to them, the Mexican people are just happy you're taking a stab at it, especially as a gringo. They're like, "Oh, this guy's cool. He's trying to speak our tongue," So
It's true.
so it's a good idea to brush up on a few of those things at least. And my biggest phrase that I really need to take with me when we go back is I have to learn the phrase for "You're speaking too fast. I'm just not that good at Spanish." So I have to
that's a good
translate
one.
that. I figured out left, right when we were talking to the cabbie. We got to get into this stuff. So let's.
Okay, so let's talk a little bit about like daily life in Mexico City and how, as a tourist, you can get by. So obviously, you can take the subway. James and I didn't have to do that because, again, we wanted to make the most of our time and not get lost and have to get on a train to turn around. So we had a tour guide. But you can certainly take cabs. You want to be very careful about taking cabs, and this is what every single person has told us, including our tour guide. You don't just grab a cab as a tourist anywhere in the city. The safest place to catch a cab is at a taxi stand. Now, you will see people, and they're obviously locals, grabbing a cab from the middle of the street. Well, that's not something that we would want to do because we're not locals. We look like tourists. So the best thing to do is to take a cab from a taxi stand. Most taxi stands have a captain. They speak English. They ask you where you're going to go, and they'll give you a price right there on the spot, and the cab driver doesn't change that price. And you won't be taken off to a part of the city and,
shaken down.
Exactly.
And left without a wallet.
So because we had Fernando, we really didn't have to worry about a cab at all, except for one time. We went to a museum, and I did text him and say, "Hey, is there a taxi stand? Are you aware near this museum? Like, is it within walking distance?" And I did that before we left. And he said, "Oh, that museum is very popular. We went to the anthropology museum. There'll be a taxi stand right outside." Perfect. So
can I interject real quick about the anthropology museum?
yeah, of course.
After a full day of seeing the pyramids and then going to the anthropology museum, I think by the second or third room, we were both kind of overlooking at rocks. We were over it.
Agreed.
Yeah. But they had a nice cafe there.
Oh yeah, that was really good.
Yeah. Anyway, go on.
So we have an appointment to meet the American Girl at like 2:00. And so because it was a day where everyone was on the road and there was no exemptions for any cars, we knew it was going to take a minute for us to get over. A 20-minute ride was going to take us an hour. We knew this. So we come out of the anthropology museum, and I start running, and James is behind me toward the taxi cab stand because I see a cab there already and I want to catch it before it leaves. And I'm running and I see this man who's about 100 years old with a cane. And I yell back at James and I said, oh God, I hope he's not driving us. But then I thought, well,
You're
there's
so
no,
ageist.
I am. I really am. Because there was no way we were going to get there in time with a 100-year-old man behind the wheel.
Mhm.
Okay. We had an hour and that was not even going to be enough. So, but I thought to myself, well, he's probably the captain. You know, he's not going to be driving. No.
He was driving.
Yes, he was driving. So I get to the cab. He says to me, do you need a cab? I say yes. He puts me in the cab seat. And then all of a sudden, I see him going around to the driver's seat. So I jump out of the cab. Do you
Yeah.
remember that, right? I jumped out of
You
the cab. I jumped out of the cab and I ran around the front. And he was like basically like, where are you going? Where are you going? And I was just, I don't know what I was doing. I got to be honest with you. I think I panicked. Like I ran out.
That makes two of us.
I ran out for no reason. I ran out because I was like, no, this man cannot drive us. So I ran out and then this young guy comes over who had to be like 30. And I thought, oh, this is our cabbie, right?
He was the captain.
He was the captain.
Yeah.
I was like, I looked at him and he goes,
he's going to take you.
Yeah,
He's going to take you.
That's what he said. He goes, where do you want to go? He goes, lady. And I go, what? And I was like, who's driving? He goes, he's driving. So he tells us the price. It's the same price that the cabbie told us. I was like, oh.
And you were already ready to text Sarah and just say, hey, we're going to be late.
We're not going to make it. So we get in the cab and I literally said to you, I'm going to text Sarah and tell her we're not going to be on time, which I did because I knew there was no way. And then we get in the cab and I don't know what happened.
He scorched the tires, leaving the parking lot, and quickly crossed 3 lanes of traffic to get in the bus lane. And while everybody was parked at several lights over a 3-mile stretch, he proceeded to drive up the ass of every bus that was in front of us in
the bus lane,
in their actual lane. He had no business being in this lane. And all I could hear on the side of our car was as we zipped past all the parked cars in traffic. I could not believe this guy, the stones on this guy.
He was OG. He was legit OG.
Seriously, OG. I'm telling you right now, you have not lived until you have ridden with a 90-year-old Mexican man who does a 3-lane drift in the middle of a 4-lane roundabout in Mexico City. It was the greatest ride of my life. Like there was a point where I was like, I just have to see how much better this gets. Like this is insane.
So I'm texting Sarah saying like, we might not make it on time. And James going, did you just see that? Did you just see that?
Yep.
And then I look up and it's like, here's what I see. I see cars flying in front of us back and forth and he's just going straight. And I was like, it was like, what's that Uncle Toad's Wild Ride? What's that? Like
Mr. Toad's Wild Ride. Yeah.
It was insane.
Oh yeah, he was like Mexican Moses, just parting the Red Sea. It was crazy.
It was
just
crazy.
Like cars would just like would like lean into him and then zip away because they knew he wasn't stopping. It was insane.
I said to James at one point, we're driving in the bus lane, and this was the day. If you didn't hear me say it previous, where there was no restrictions on driving. So every
car in Mexico City was on the road that day. Yeah.
It was a parking lot except for us. And we were sandwiched between 2 buses. Like I literally turned around because there was like speed
and
coming
they were honking at him. They were like, what are you doing in the bus lane? And he's like
crazy.
He was just waving everybody off. No.
He could, you know what James said? James said, what did you say? He could give AF?
Yeah.
It was crazy. James looked at me and goes, he could give AF right now. And I was like, oh, you're right. He really could. And then
I didn't want to swear because he probably knows American swear words. So I didn't want to be disrespectful in his cab.
So what happens? He gets us over to our area literally in like 30 minutes. Like he didn't stop. There was nothing.
We went from being late to being 20 minutes early.
Right. So he gets us over there and he's going so fast. I see that he passes the street that we're supposed to be on, right? Yep. So I'm saying to him, it's back there. And I'm like pointing behind me, right? He's like, no, right? He doesn't speak any English. We don't speak very good Spanish. Well, zero Spanish really. And so I
I
know he's
speak
going in
Spanish.
the wrong direction. So I keep like I have maps on my phone and ways, and I see that it keeps saying U-turn, U-turn, U-turn. And I know he's going the wrong way and he's going deeper into the wrong way. So I keep holding my phone up to him, basically like I'm literally shoving my phone in his face from the back seat. I'm like, no, no, no. And he's like, no, no. And he'd kind of like push my hand away, right? Then finally we're at a stoplight and I go, and I'm like, senor, senor. And I take my phone and I like literally put it in his face. I go, here, here, because he had to turn right like at the light. I go, here, here. He takes off his glasses and he picks up another pair of glasses and puts it on and goes, oh, okay.
Yeah. It was like, dude. But we got there. He got us. Oh my gosh. There were a couple like little side streets he was taking us down. I was like, oh my God.
I just kept sticking my hand in front of him, go turn this way. And I
Yeah.
would go turn this way. He was getting so annoyed with me, but there was the only way he was going to get us there. He was literally going the opposite direction.
Yeah. He got us in the area. He kept going. And it took us a few, exchanges to get him back on the right track.
Yeah.
It was fun.
But so here's the thing that you also learn when you're in Mexico City with regards to transportation. So one we just shared with you, which is if you're not a local, take a taxi from a taxi stand. The second is if you want to take a bus, you have to be very careful about the buses that you take. There are two types of buses in Mexico City. There's the government run, right? Or ran. I always get that wrong.
Government run.
Yeah. Buses. And then there's the private buses. So you'll know the difference between government run buses are electrical and they run on a wire and
Cable.
they're blue, I believe. And you see stands everywhere for them. And then the regular buses are just like buses that like are run on gas and they're all different colors and they have different names on them. Okay. Here's the difference right now. The buses that are run by the government or the city of Mexico, are very safe. The other ones are constantly getting robbed. So the way that it was explained to us is that when you go on those buses, you generally pay in cash. And what happens is that even though it's illegal to carry a gun or a knife or anything like that on you as a citizen in Mexico City, people still get on the buses that are privately owned and will rob them. And it is a risk you take. And he says it happens every single day. And he said, there's nothing you can do. He said, you just don't carry cash on you. You carry just enough to pay for your fare. He said the bus driver will generally just give the robber the money. The robber jumps off and runs somewhere in a neighborhood. So, and then they get on with the rest of their route.
Yep.
He said, it's super, super
like,
common.
no big deal.
Yeah, like no big deal. So he said every day when ladies and men take those buses that they know that they are going to run the risk of getting robbed, but they have to take it because sometimes those bus routes are the only routes that take them to their home.
To their neighborhoods, yeah.
Yeah. So the city run is done by a card. There's no cash exchanged. It's city workers. So basically, if you're going to rob a city worker, you're basically robbing like the government. So they'll come and find you. So that was a really important bit of information. Don't get on a privately owned bus, or the chances are extremely high that you're going to get robbed. With the buses being electric, we also learned that the whole city of Mexico wants to be electric by 2030. But when I looked it up myself, because this is what Fernando shared with me, that they really want to do away with fossil fuels. They're trying to like really move toward electric cars in addition to the electric buses. And when he said by 2030, I was like, wow, that's really progressive. Like that's just, 8 years away. But then when I researched it a little bit, Mexico is really on the track of maybe as a country being fossil fuel free by 50%. And that won't be until, I don't know, like they're saying maybe if they're lucky, like 2040, 2050, and that's only 50%. So, it's encouraging. I mean, to know that another city and another country, not just Mexico City, but the country as a whole is interested in, getting rid of fossil fuels. It's like, okay, like it's nice to hear.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's good because looking at the landscape, it was very much like when you could sort of like when we were climbing that hill where all the buses that get robbed take people to those neighborhoods up on the hill. Once we got so far up the mountain, you could turn around and see all the smog
Yeah.
all over the city. It was very reminiscent of the San Fernando Valley where we lived for 20 plus years. So, yeah, it's a problem.
Yeah.
It's very much a,
It's the first thing people have asked me since I've been back. They're like, how was the smog? And I'm like, wow, it really does. It does come with the territory of Mexico City. It's not, like nobody asks like, oh, how was the food? They're like, how was the smog? So it's kind of a shame.
But we've also had people ask us like, oh, how's the crime there and everything? And naturally, obviously, not to kick a dead horse, but we had a tour guide. So we stayed off, the paths that would take us into sort of crime infested areas or what have you. But the thing that's worth mentioning, especially hearkening back to one of our previous episodes about Memphis, is that Mexico City is safer than Detroit. It's safer than Baltimore. It's safer than Memphis and a small handful of other American cities. So like it's their largest city. So it's basically their New York, right?
Right.
The fact that it still ranks lower than a bunch of American cities in terms of crime and everything. All you ever hear when you're going to Mexico is, oh, watch out. You're going to get robbed. You're going to get stabbed. Or you're going to, comparatively, there are places in America where you could do worse in terms of safety. And, especially in, the Cabos or the Todos Santos or, Playa del Carmen, you're looking relatively, like as a tourist, at generally speaking, a pretty safe area.
So now I guess would be a really great time to talk about kind of like the elephant in the room, which is the cartel.
Yeah.
So, why don't you start?
Well,
what did we learn about it?
One of the big anecdotes, or it's not really an anecdote, like one of the big stories still, even though it's a decade old, is the story of the 43 students who were boarding a bus outside of Acapulco in 2012, and they all went missing. It was a huge story in international news. 43 students. I guess, as explained to us, if you're a college student, you could basically get on any bus you want in the local municipality and take it to wherever this bus is going. You could basically board as a college student. I guess a bunch of students requisitioned this bus to go to this protest, not realizing that this particular bus, even though the driver warned them, you don't want to get on this bus, do not get on this bus. They insisted, no, we have to go to the protest. We have to go to the protest. They got on. It happened to be a bus that was carrying a lot of drugs or a lot of money for one of the cartels. And when the cartel got news of it, they just naturally assumed it was another cartel that was hijacking this bus, when in fact it was just a bunch of college students looking to go get their protest on somewhere. So cut to, as our tour guides tell us, and as many of the people in Mexico talk about, I mean, there are like street monuments set up for these students I guess on the anniversary of when the event occurred or whatever. We saw at least 3 of them walking around Mexico City. Cut to the cartel, who thinks they're being robbed by another cartel, says all hands on deck, and basically calls all of their friends in the military and the police and everything. And naturally, the cops basically killed some of the students, as I'm told, and then realized that they were students, and then basically had to get rid of the evidence by killing the rest of the students. Uh-huh. So
there was one survivor. He played dead,
who told the tale. Yeah. And so
their bodies are buried somewhere. Nobody knows where their bodies are buried. The parents just want the bodies back, but it's been 10 years. They're never going to get it back. They actually, rumor has it, they're buried on military ground, like a military base somewhere.
So culturally, it's in all of their consciousness, especially in Mexico City. But even when we were, going around Cabo or what have you, you would see glimmers of it here and there. And obviously, our tour guide told us a lot about the story. So it's a thing, and it sort of is representative of the little people who want to be rid of the cartel regime. I don't know how they accomplish that.
It's never going to happen though, because when we were talking to both tour guides, I mean, they're both locals, and it's, again, you're seeing the country through their eyes, not through a journalist's eyes, not through a student's eyes, not through a politician's eyes. You're seeing it through people that work in this country and have lived there their whole lives. So, you know, the cartel's everywhere. And the best way that we learned about how much they control is during times of recession for them. Like, let's just take a look at COVID. No one went under. Not
Yeah.
a single business in that entire country went under during COVID. So who funded that?
The cartels.
Everyone knows it was the
Yeah.
cartels. The cartels kept every business alive during COVID. So how are they ever going to go away when they are funding an entire country? We're not talking about funding a politician and paying for his campaign. We're talking about 2 years. And that's just one example, because they had a recession also in 2008, like we did.
Yeah.
The country was taken care of then too.
Yeah.
So the one thing is that as tourists, you're kind of oblivious to it. But like, as both tour guides shared with us, it's very, very present. Like, even the American that we spent the afternoon with, she said to me, "Do you feel it?" And I said, "I don't." And she said, "It's here." She said,
Yeah.
"It's everywhere."
Yeah. I mean, I think like coming into it, it wasn't like we were there with rose-colored glasses. Like, we were careful of our surroundings. We knew that we were, especially in the central district downtown, we knew that we were in an area that was predominantly tourists. Let's face it, we as middle-agers have, other than sort of being kidnapped and shaken down for money or what have you, there's not a lot we have to offer. I mean, I think if you're a young girl, if you're a group of young girls going there, or young guys who get your party on and one of you gets lost, or, you guys are too rowdy at the bar or whatever, you
Mhm.
run the risk
Of
definitely
getting kidnapped.
Yeah. Or just, bad things happen.
Ransom.
So yeah, for, sort of the smallest of reasons. But, I don't know. I honestly, I felt like, while we were there, it's like, yeah, you can feel it. You could kind of,
I didn't because I
if
don't
you're
think we're
paying
there long
attention
enough.
though, you kind of see like the resignation on the people's faces. Like, there are people there, like, as an American, we're always like beating our chests and we're like, you know what, we're going to take the bull by the horns and I'm going to start this new business and and you could just see the resignation on a lot of people's faces there. Like, they know their status, like they know their spot in society. You can feel that a little bit. The flip side to that coin is, with that acceptance comes a joy where they're just like they're really joyful, happy people.
It is true.
You know what I mean?
It is so true.
And
Like,
so,
yeah,
so many of the people we encountered in Cabo, like, the little guy who made the leather bracelets and stuff, he's just like, tink, tink, tink. I need $30. Can you give me $30 for this? Sure. I'll give you $30 for that. And it was like,
and it's very complex when you're in Mexico City. Sarah said it, and actually you did as well. You said it's enchanting, but something else you said, like Sarah said, she said, I equate it to enchanting and fear. Like it's
Yeah.
complex, it's beautiful and complex. I think that's
Yeah.
what you said.
There's just
And
an
she said the same
undercurrent of
thing.
like eerie, like, the evil that men can do. You've seen the
Yes.
movies.
Yes, that
Not
is
all
true.
of them are exaggerated. Some of them have to come, like, Sicario
Mhm.
or, Man on Fire or whatever. I mean, I will say, like, it's kind of unfair because I feel like Mexico City, like when you say Mexico City, everybody like boils it down to 3 car chases with Denzel Washington. You know what I mean?
It's
like,
true.
it's totally unfair to the city of, CDMX. But I will say, you can't see those movies and not find the nuggets of truth in there.
That is
These
true.
things do happen. Everybody talks about just how insanely brutal if you crossed a cartel, the things that would happen to you are comparable to things that happen to, like that terrorists use to torture people. You know what I mean?
And while we were there, we obviously heard stories of people who had opportunities to, work with the cartel, meaning like whatever, cater an event or this or that. And it's like, and they didn't. They
Yeah.
didn't because
They just stay
even though it
away.
was good money, and even though maybe there was a celebrity singer at somebody's birthday party, it wasn't worth it.
Yeah.
Because if they cater one party, they may have to cater two.
Yeah.
And then it's just too dangerous. And then all of a sudden they're catering for the cartel. Like
Yeah.
it's just.
And we said, well, how do you know? Like when you get that phone call, like, how do you know who it's for? Oh, I know by the area. Like if they're asking me
Yes.
to go into a certain area, I'm out.
I'm not working that job.
Yeah.
If they
I'm
ask me.
unavailable. I just
Yeah.
make an excuse.
Exactly.
So it's kind of omnipresent. Yeah, for sure.
But with that being said, what's so interesting is there's so many Europeans that live there. I mean, there are areas of Mexico City, Condesa, Roma. What was that other
Yeah,
one?
we need to talk about these. So let's get
so
into that.
there was Coyoacan. Did I say that right? Coyoacan.
You did.
So Condesa, Roma, and Coyoacan are all very popular areas where Europeans go. Coyoacan, the Frida Kahlo house is there. But
yeah, we went by the Frida car. I always say it wrong.
I know.
Kahlo.
Yeah. But interestingly enough, as much as we talk about the locals, there are tons of Europeans there.
Yeah, especially so Condesa is actually
It's
a
most
lot more
expensive area.
Euros, a lot more Americans, definitely a lot more white folks there. Roma,
It's like the Beverly Hills of like
it is.
Mexico
Roma's
City.
a little more mixed.
Yeah, I like
think
Roma.
Roma's more of like a mid-level suburb where you get like more of a flavor of, the Mexican folks who are a little more upwardly mobile that figured it out, that cracked the code. You're going to get your Americans who make a modest living in America and just decided to move to Roma. They can fit that better. And then I don't know. I mean, Coyoacan though.
Coyoacan was cool. So Coyoacan to me looked like one of those arty areas that was up and coming. Like wherever you live, those areas where like the artists have moved in. It used to be like just like maybe like super basic, but then like all of a sudden a cool cafe opened up, and then a cool bookstore, and then a cool boutique, and then all of a sudden rents are going up. So Coyoacan to me was like a really cool arty area.
Yeah. And it was definitely rustic Mexican,
yes.
all the surrounding areas. So to spell the name of the city, the town, Coyoacan, Coyoacan. Condesa is Condesa.
SSA.
Two S's, two S's. Condessa.
Roma, Roma.
Roma, Roma. And let's not forget our Jewish friends over in Polanco. Porlanco.
Okay.
We went there. That was basically the Beverly Hills. It looked like
I take it back. Yeah. Condesa was not the Beverly Hills. Condesa was like the Santa Monica.
Polanco's right next door.
The
I
Beverly
think it's right
Hills.
near there. Yeah.
Yeah. It was, really nice area.
And then he showed us pictures. We didn't see. So I guess historically, a lot of the Mexican Jews who live in Polanco are now going out to another section of the city that's a little more upscale. It's called Condado de Ciudad.
Oh, I did not remember that.
C-A-N.
Okay.
Oh, sorry. Condado. Second word D-E. Third word Sayavedra. Saavedra.
Did he tell you this? Because I don't remember this.
Yeah. He said once the women get out there, it's basically like the rich of the rich. It's not necessarily Jewish out there, but it's basically, he was telling me about a client that he had for a tour. He had to move a van full of people around. Our tour guide does a lot of film and television shoots, so he'll do transportation for these things. And there was one for like a corporate client or something like that, but the woman actually lived in this Condado area. And she told him, I have no idea what Mexico is really like, because ever since we moved to Condado, it's like living in a bubble. So it's
I sort of remember
she's
that.
sort of cut off from like the entire, I think that's when you were sleeping, hun. I think that's when you were taking a nap.
Definitely
So,
could have been.
So anyway, that's, those are like the higher end areas. I don't know. I mean, overall, though, I think we need to talk about a couple things: the one hit and the one miss. Tacos or Naco.
Oh yeah, that was a miss for sure.
We should have known it was a miss for you when the when your friend Sarah said, "Oh, it's kind of like the In and Out of Mexico."
I know, because I don't like In and Out.
Because she hates In and Out. So we went there. It was fine. I mean, it was, but I just didn't get all the hype.
I like my quesadilla, and that was it. I don't like anything else.
Yeah. So Tacos Orinoco
And I
is
don't like
like
quesadillas.
it's a
So there you
popular
go.
place where everybody says you got to go, you got to go, you got to go. Pro tip: don't go to Tacos Orinoco. Go to Khalifa instead. I think it's La Khalifa, Califa. It looked way more promising.
Yeah, and
way
Fernando
more
said,
flavors on the
you
menu.
should have gone to La Khalifa. Why did you go
Yeah,
to Tacos?
yeah.
Whatever the heck that is.
But let's talk about the big hit. We went there twice.
Oh, I have to.
El Moro,
I know, I was gonna look it up.
ELMORRO.
I wanted to get the right, like I wanted to know, I wanted to get it exactly the way it was spelled.
Moro.
El Moro. It's churros
Churros. We went the first night.
and hot chocolate, Mexican
Yeah.
hot chocolate. It was so delicious.
We read the sign wrong.
Yeah, because we don't speak Spanish or read Spanish.
It's so funny because it was like such a generic word, and I should have known. I should have figured it out. But
Yeah. So what happened? So we walk in.
we walk in, we pay the cashier for what we want. They give us what we want, and then we turned right around and went to go sit at a table, and they looked at us like, "What are you doing?" So we were at the to-go window, basically.
Yeah, and then they got mad, and then they just pointed at us.
The lady was like, "Go ahead,
go." Yeah.
So we left a couple $dollars for a tip, and then we left.
It was
But
such
the
good
next
churros.
time we went,
they're the best churros in Mexico City.
Yeah.
Like this company is, and there's churros everywhere. But this is the best, and I don't know what makes them best because I didn't try anyone else. Because why would I?
Yeah. Why would you? They were really good. We walked past a place where there was nobody in the churro restaurant at the same time.
Where there was a line outside the other one.
Yeah.
It made no sense. Well, I guess it probably does.
Yeah. El Moro was the best. It had great Mexican chocolate, which
Mexican
is
hot chocolate.
cinnamon hot chocolate. Yeah. You
So good.
enjoyed all that stuff. You liked it so much that in less than 24 hours, we were back there again.
We did.
Yeah.
Yep. We skipped dinner and went to churros.
Yeah. There's another place that I went to. I think it was called Cafe Obregon. These biscuits that they make are killer. They are so
yeah.
good. Obregon. That place was really good. And then we were staying in the Centro Historico District. There's one more bakery around the corner. I forget the name of it. But that looked really good as well.
Did you go in?
I did not. I went in, but I didn't order anything. It was
Okay.
at night. I'd already
Then we're not going to talk about it. You didn't
Okay.
have anything.
I didn't have anything, but it looked amazing.
All right. Well,
And
looks
there was
can
a
be
line
deceiving.
of people. I think a line of Mexicans standing outside.
All right,
tells you it's
fine.
good.
But you didn't have it, so
right.
let's not even talk about it.
All right, fine. Do you remember the place, the hotel we went, where it was right on the corner of the square? The first dinner we had overlooking the square. Do you remember that?
Yes, it's the Grand Hotel in Mexico City.
Grand Hotel Ciudad de Mexico.
Well, that means City of Mexico. So
I know.
I said it right.
Just you said it like a white lady.
I did because I'm white. No getting around that.
All right. So anyway, so those are all places we recommend. I think we need to wrap this up. Yeah.
Let's talk about our top 5 and our
Top
bottom
5 and bottom 5. Your
Yeah.
top 5. Ready,
Okay,
set.
so
You're not ready.
I'm
Ready,
really
set.
not
Ready,
okay.
go.
The canals. We never talked about the canals, but
Talk
they
about
have
'em now.
canals in Mexico City, and we went on the canals, and it was like right out of Venice, but not in Venice, and we had a canal driver. I don't know, there's a real technical word for them, but the canals were incredible. I thought the food was amazing. We didn't really get a chance to talk about the food, but there are all different fares there. I mean, look, if you ever turn on the Food Network, you'll always see an episode where there's a chef that lives in Mexico City and owns a restaurant in Mexico City. There's a reason for that.
Yeah.
So the food was incredible. You could get a couple of appetizers, a couple of, bougie drinks, 2 entrees and a dessert for under 70 American dollars. And that's like, a 5-star meal. And you can get that whether it's Mexican, Italian, American. They have everything there. So the food was one of my top 5. I love the fact that the city is walkable. So we walked 4 miles one day from our hotel to the Anthropology Museum, and it didn't feel like 4 miles. It's very reminiscent of living in Chicago or a city like New York, where there's so much to see that you're distracted by how much your feet hurt. Also, I love the fact that it's environmentally conscious. Like wherever you go, there are different trash cans for organic waste or inorganic waste. I know it's a poverty stricken country, but they still really care about their environment. The fact that they want to go electric and they have a goal is pretty incredible. No one in America is talking about going electric. So kudos to them for at least trying. I also, I my one of my the last top 5 for me is fight the power. I love that they protest. I love that they protest everything. I was so happy that they were protesting. I mean, look, if you're living in a caste system and all you've got are protests, have at it.
Okay. Yeah, that makes sense.
So, do you want me to do my bottom 5 or do you want to do your top 5?
Well, I just want to jump in real quick. I'll do my top 5. But I want to say the canals you're talking about are called Xochimilco. Xochimilco. We got to ride the Daniela. That was our little boat. So basically, for those of you who have been to Venice, it's a very similar thing. Goes back to Mexico City is actually just little islands and pieces of land that have been built up over centuries, starting with the Aztecs. Mexico City is built on a lake. So, but there are all these sort of pieces of land that stick out. If you look at the aerial view of Mexico City, you'll see the lake, you'll see all these plots of land that have been built up using tree roots basically and concrete. And now all of a sudden, with a bridge, it's just another section of town. So
it's crazy.
The Aztecs began this process. They really built out the city.
I had no idea it was built on a lake until we got there. But it's funny because when I was on the plane and it was nighttime, I saw all the lights and I was like, why is there so much water in Mexico City?
Now
I know.
Because Mexico City is on water.
Yep.
So Xochimilco are the canals we went to where you basically board the boats. You have to check out the video that Denise is putting on social media.
It's incredible.
Of us climbing on and off these boats.
There's
you
so much
sail
fun.
around. A jewelry guy will jump on your boat, try and sell you stuff.
Or they'll serenade you.
Yeah. There are mariachis that will pull right up next to you and say, please, $5 for a song or whatever. And then all of a sudden you got like 7 people surrounding you on your boat. It was fun. I could have
spent all day there.
It was your favorite thing.
It was. He kept asking me, what was your favorite thing? I'm like, canals. And I didn't even get a chance to talk about it on this podcast because there's so many great things, but that was by far my favorite. Yeah.
So anyway, that's an expansion of yours. I'm going to do my top 5 and then we'll get to the bottoms.
Okay. Let's hear your top 5.
My top 5 are, drum roll. I love that they put little like movable coat racks at the end of every table. It's the stupidest thing ever, but when you're wearing a suit jacket and you don't want to hang it on the back of your chair because it's sweltering at night, I imagine a lot. Actually, the climate is fairly.
I thought it was a purse hanger.
Yeah,
you thought climate, it was a jacket holder.
But it can be either. They just move these little like coat hangers in front of your table, and it's no big deal for you to park all your belongings on there.
It's brilliant.
While you're eating at a restaurant. It's so silly, but I was like, damn, I really dig that.
Did you wear a sport coat?
I didn't. I did not wear a single.
You couldn't even use it.
I know I didn't. I needed to I should have. I wasn't even wearing a baseball hat when I was there. So I don't know. Anyway, I love the drivers for that many people. And I can say definitively, we saw only a couple breakdowns. I don't think we saw any fender benders while we were there. Did you see one?
I did.
You did?
Yep.
How many? A lot?
One. I saw one fender bender.
You saw one.
Yeah.
Now go down the 405 and get to work on a Monday morning.
3.
Yeah, exactly.
Always.
So it's like for that many people with no driver's tests.
Who didn't take a driver's test. Exactly.
It's like, and granted, it's total pandemonium. I mean, it just feels insane while you're driving around. But then at the same time, it's like everybody's making their own rules and nobody wants to hit one another. Go ahead. There are a lot of people letting you in. Just take it from our old man who drove us around.
That one day.
Yeah.
That 30-minute drive.
Yeah. I wrote down airport shoes. Why did I wrote down airport shoes?
You don't have to take your shoes off at the airport.
Oh yeah, you don't have to take your shoes off at the airport.
That's something to be in a top 5.
It's just so crazy. Like back in 2001, one idiot decided to try and light his shoes on fire. Now we all have to take our shoes off every single time we go to the airport.
I thought
you don't
it
have
was
to do that in a lot of other developed nations.
I
It's
thought
the
it was
dumbest-
1990. I thought it was the
No, it was
World-
after 9/11.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. It was like,
Okay.
it's just one more mechanism of control by the U.S. government, by the TSA.
Yep.
To
100%.
just basically like,
Make your life difficult.
punch you in the nuts first thing in the morning on your way out of Salt Lake City. Anyway, so I really like that.
You made it a top 5.
I did. I really like.
You really like not
taking
having
my
to take
shoes
your
off.
shoes
Yeah.
off.
I'm simple. I like the coat hangers and the not taking my shoes off. Todos Santos. That was really one of the highlights of the trip for us. I know it's not part of Mexico City, but it was a great break from the party vibe in Cabo that, I feel like we're probably in agreement. Like we're kind of over Cabo a little bit at this point.
Yeah.
And ready to just explore like the quote unquote real Mexico.
Yeah.
Todos Santos was a great town. It was just what the doctor ordered. It is slow if you want it to be slow, but there were certainly plenty of things for us to do as we walked around town. And my last, the history and enthusiasm is my number 5. It seems like for the average Mexican, they sure know a lot about their own history.
They really
know a lot about their own tribes, understanding that a lot of them are from Indian tribes all over Mexico. They just, the sense of culture, the sense of history, their enthusiasm for it. We went into a post office with like 3 or 4 like of those old school elevators, the metal elevators that where you have to hand crank them or whatever. And there were like Mexican folks in there with us. Like when we went to Sister of Guadalupe, the cathedral, like all these little regional churches would send their little pilgrim groups to this church to go worship at this church. They all had big banners up and everything. And that's sort of pride.
Nationalism. A lot of like, proud nationalism.
It's like, as Americans, we have our own version of that. And to see another culture, like if you go to France, you don't get that sense.
Oh, that's for sure.
Yeah. Maybe if you go to England, I don't know. I wouldn't know. I haven't been there yet, to be determined. I think there are places where you can go and you don't get that same level of awareness and pride and history and like they're engaging and they're eager to tell you about where they came from or their people, their indigenous
they're very
sort
proud
of
people.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. And they should be. They're amazing people. They're super friendly and super welcoming. And, that's my top 5. You want to go to bottoms?
Yeah, sure. Okay. So my bottom 5 are, my bottom 5 are mostly based on finances because I found the people delightful. I found the food amazing. I love the weather. I love Mexico. So most of my bottom 5 is just based on financial issues of the country. So I think the pay scale is terrible. I just don't think anyone should make $4 a day. I think the traffic, again, it's really bad. 22 million people, but what can you do about that? That's a tough one. I think that they don't, I think it's terrible that they don't hire within. James had mentioned that if you're lighter skin colored and you're like Spaniard or you're European, you will get a job over a local who maybe has darker skin or
get more experience.
And for sure has more experience. You'll still, if you're lighter skin, you will get the job over that other person, even if that other person has more experience. So I think it's terrible that they don't hire within. What goes along with it, the fact that they don't hire within, is that there's no upward mobility. We talked about that. So you can't like work really hard to like one day be vice president of the company. No, it doesn't work that way because the vice president of the company is going to be probably the owner's son. So talk about, what do you call that in America when like the family?
Nepotism.
There you go. Yeah. So it's like nepotism to the extreme. And then also my bottom 5 obviously is the cartel, just that, they can feel it. I certainly couldn't because I was only there for 4 days, but give me a couple weeks. I bet you I could. But like James said, you can see it on some people's faces. I didn't until he just mentioned it now. Like when he mentioned it, I was like, you know what? You're right. Like obviously there is a sense of like somebody else is running the show. And I think that also, obviously plays into people's finances and how far they can get ahead in Mexico when someone else is controlling the show. It's very difficult. So, but most of my bottom 5 minus traffic are financial based.
Got it. Okay. Mine are, some of mine overlap with yours. My biggest one was the smog. I think it was definitely surprising to me because frankly, the city is filled with so many green parks, right?
Oh,
There are
it's
so many
true.
green parks. Like,
Yeah.
I personally feel if the Mexicans are going to kidnap anybody, it should be LA Parks and Rec administrators, because they could learn a hell of a lot from the people in CDMX. They should kidnap them. They should teach them how to actually pull off a city park,
Agreed.
because LA is shameful compared to CDMX in this department.
Yeah.
But zooming out, like I said, and getting above a certain atmosphere or going up the mountain or whatever, you can still see the smog and everything. And whatever efforts they're trying to make, I think every industrialized country could probably make bigger steps. Mexico's no exception. So there's that. The holes in the sidewalks, ankle breakers, just waiting to happen. Like holes
forgot
in the
about that.
sidewalks. We
No,
would be
they're
walking
deadly.
around and I'd be like,
No,
I
they're
will literally
deadly.
break my foot in that damn
No,
thing
you'll
right
fall in.
Yeah.
Like it's not like a little crack.
There are occasionally a spike sticking out.
Oh, yeah, the spikes.
Rebar.
Mhm.
Yeah.
The spikes are good. I forgot about that.
Yeah. So be mindful of that as you're walking around. I have a couple other tips for the guys here in a second, but upward mobility, I also said. And then for me, the American demand for drugs. The American demand for drugs makes me is one of my bottoms for Mexico, because frankly, they're going to keep producing the supply as long as we are so lax with our inability to control the demand for it. It's that simple. If you want all these drugs off the streets in America, guess what? Your Mexican brother down the street also wants all the drugs off the streets in America. So figure out a way to legalize it or abolish it or something, because you know what? It's for all of the ills that the drug consumption in the United States has, especially in our rural communities, right? For all of those ills, there's an equal but opposite ill for some family in a rural area in Mexico.
It's true.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's very true.
And frankly, if you don't want cartels in Mexico, then you're going to have to cut off the demand.
Well, it's
in
basic.
America.
It's like when you want to put someone out of business, you don't frequent their place.
Yeah. So I don't know. Talk to your kids, talk to your friends and neighbors, and
Stop doing drugs.
Exactly. Don't do drugs, people. But I do, before we wrap this up, I want to mention a couple things that I ran into, just like traveler tips. Okay. First off, bring a pen. We didn't bring a pen going through customs. We had to borrow a pen from a lady. We've done this so many times.
It was such a rookie move.
Think we should know.
Such a rookie move.
Make sure you have a pen somewhere in your backpack or in your bag. You have to fill out a customs form when you get to Mexico.
Yeah.
You have to, and frankly, it's going to be a little bit in Spanish. So maybe review the Mexican customs form before you go. I'm sure you can find a copy of one online, and you'll know what to put on each space when you get that form handed to. They don't give it to you on the plane.
They used to. They don't anymore.
They don't. You're in the terminal waiting to go to your destination or meet your cabbie or your tour guide or whatever, as they hand this thing to you. And there's a scramble with all the white people from America to figure out who has a pen, who doesn't. It's stupid. We forgot a pen. The AT&T service for our phones sucked.
Terrible.
Sucked
Just
in Cabo.
awful. Just awful.
Sucked every time I needed it in Mexico City when we had the cab driver. I just wanted to be reminded of the Spanish words for right and left. And when he blew past Denise's street, my wheel was spinning on my Safari because I could not get Google
AT&T
to load.
sucks in Mexico.
Eventually we got into an area and I got bars, and then it happened, and then we got there. But anyway, AT&T sucks in Mexico. For the guys, bring, now I'm talking, forget Cabo. Cabo's a resort town. It's a beach town. Bring shorts and flip flops and a swimsuit and you're good. But for Mexico City, definitely bring pants. Bring a casual pair of black or brown pants and probably casual shoes. It doesn't seem to like, we were told by everybody there that the climate is really moderate. So it doesn't seem like it gets too much colder or warmer than it was when we were there.
No, it's like 78 all the time.
Yeah. So, but if you want to go to a nicer place, bring a jacket of sorts, a dinner jacket. If you want, you can hang it on one of my favorite coat hangers. I would also say, guys, probably no flip-flops in CDMX. The sidewalks are dirty from everybody walking around. There are holes and spikes. The aforementioned bottom 5 list of mine. You do not want to be caught walking around for 4 or 5 days in Mexico City with only a pair of flip-flops. Bring a pair of shoes, sneakers. If you're going to be doing walking down all the way down Reforma like we did, definitely a pair of, comfortable tennis shoes or something like that. And then the biggest thing is not the biggest thing. The second biggest thing is download Duolingo before you go to Mexico City. At least check it out and do some of their rudimentary lessons in that app before you go for like a month or two. Do a couple when you're drinking your coffee, instead of reading ESPN yet again and reloading it, do a quick Spanish lesson. You'll appreciate just knowing the basics.
And one other thing I want to add, which, because there's so much to talk about in this episode with Mexico City, go to your local bank and buy pesos before you get to the city. The exchange rate to do it at an ATM or a local currency exchange is quite high. Definitely do not do it in the airport. You will pay $50 to exchange $200, which is literally insanity, highway robbery. So if you can bring pesos and you can easily go to your bank, you request it 3 days before your trip and they'll have it for you. Also, a lot of people tend to pay with credit cards with everything when they're there. Americans do because they say it's so easy. But just remember that your bank is going to charge you an exchange fee every time. So that $70 dinner, they'll add $2 to that dinner. And if you're using your card for everything, that could add up to an extra $100 to $200. So in the past, we've always brought pesos with us or dollars wherever we've gone, and I've never used my credit card. On this particular trip, I just didn't do that. I didn't get to the bank in time, so unfortunately, I had to use my credit card, and I think we probably jacked up $200 in fees, even though it's $2 here and $3 here and 50 cents here. When you do a lot of things and you're using your card for everything, it matters. So, don't use your card.
Yeah. And definitely don't fall into the trap of thinking, well, I'm using my card, so they're just going to transfer, you'll just translate it for me. Yeah, they're going to do that, but they're going to charge you the fee. So like she said, definitely. It
was the first trip ever to Mexico where we used our card ever. We've been to Mexico several times. I've always brought cash or pesos. And I regret that I didn't this time. So it cost us. So just know that.
Yep. So I think that's it for Mexico.
I think that's it.
All right. What do you want to say?
Empty nest.
Full tank. Thanks for listening to our Mexican episode.
Yay.
Check the mic and make sure it sound right, boys.